check over here. Okay, it looks like we are live actually. All right, we are actually live. So I'll put the new link in the chat right there. Sorry about that, folks. All right, so for some reason it wasn't hooking up correctly. All right, but we are actually live right now. All right, just so you
As
know.
Susan mentioned, can you put the link to the new chat in the old YouTube chat as well?
Oh yeah, you mean in the one? Okay, sure. I'm going there right now. Yeah. All right, folks. We are live, just so you know. But I've actually jumping that into the chat right there. Yeah. And I just put the note there. Sorry, folks. The streaming software isn't hooking up. We are on the new link
To err is
provided.
human. It takes a computer to really screw things up.
That's right. All right, folks. So I'm actually going to shut the old one down. I'm in the new one. All right. So I guess we could actually get started. Make sure I'm muted over here, which I am. Okay. So I guess we could just go around and first we're going to start off by having a short forward by Susan. Today's event was made possible, but thanks to a generous donation by Susan Busher Lahaki. She's actually one of the presidential candidates. Go ahead. You have about 4 minutes to make your presentation. Go ahead, Susan.
Sue, you're muted.
Thank you for organizing this DJ Elf 7. I really appreciate it. It's a great what you're doing, promoting unknown presidential candidates. And this is the third debate. So really, I know you work hard to get us out there. And I appreciate it. And I think we all do. So anyway, yeah, I don't know if you heard about Donald Trump too. Uh, there was an attempt on his life earlier today, but perhaps the FBI and the Secret Service are working on finding out what's going on. So I think that that's good. I know as a presidential candidate traveling around the country, I also have the Secret Service sometimes around me, and they do a good job. I don't know what really happened in Pennsylvania at that rally there in Butler County, but I have to admit, they do work hard and they do a good job. So I also want to say a shout out to the FBI and the Secret Service for their important work they do. Then, I am Susan Maud Busher Lahaki. I'm running for President of the United States, and I'm running as a write-in candidate. I have been trying to apply to different states to be official as a write-in candidate there. But technically, I keep rereading the 14th Amendment, and I don't think it's really necessary to be an official presidential candidate according to the state, because it's our right to be a presidential candidate, and it's the citizens' rights to vote for people that they want to vote for, especially as a write-in candidate. So I think I'm to the point where, the states don't even, it's clearly written in the Constitution, uh, what the requirements are to be president. So the states have actually no right to make up fake rules and steps that presidential candidates have to make. So I just want to take this moment to read the 14th Amendment, the first part, section 1, just to go over the rights that we have. For a long time I was trying to follow the rules, and then I realized that the rules were written by rule makers, not by people who really want justice and truth. So anyways, the 14th Amendment, the first section, clearly states all persons born or naturalized in the U.S. and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the U.S. and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of the law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the law. So what that means is that we all have a right to be presidential candidates, actually, all of us. And as citizens, you have a right to vote for exactly who you want to vote for. There is a section in the Constitution exactly about how to vote for presidents, and the states have overstepped their bounds on the rules and regulations that they make on this. So, I have a lawsuit pending about registering to vote because that's also an illegal activity that all the states are doing. And we're still waiting for the Supreme Court to step forward and make a ruling on that. I'm expecting a favorable ruling, as you all know, because registering to vote is a obstruction to our rights, as it clearly stated in the 14th Amendment. No state can make or enforce a law that restricts us citizens from our rights. And our right is not to register to vote, our right is to actually vote and have it counted. So any step towards canceling one of our votes is actually unconstitutional, it's illegal, and it's corruption.
Hey, thanks a lot. Yeah.
So that's about all I can say.
All right. Let's also get your website. Yeah, so people can know where to follow you, and then we're actually going to have an introduction from all them, from the moderators and then the candidates. So go ahead.
Okay. So my website is susan4usa.com. That's Susan, the number 4usa.com.
Okay.
Thank you.
And you've been actually very helpful in terms of helping with public housing, the wrongfully incarcerated. You've been a very good partner throughout this whole series, so I really appreciate you so much. Now we're going to actually go on to the moderators of today's debate, and then we're going to introduce all the candidates right quick. Dennis, do you have something you want to say right quick?
Yes, I just think we should have a time limit on how
Yeah.
much time the people.
Yeah, I
have
was
to talk
watching.
about
Yeah, she had 4 minutes.
Whatever it is they're doing,
Yeah.
introduce themselves, and then move on to the next candidate.
That
so
that
we have
is
enough
yeah.
time to get this stuff done. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I feel you. There's a lot of candidates. You're absolutely right. All right, cool. So today we're going to start off with Josh Hadley. It's actually an indigenous man. Well, I'll let him actually introduce himself. Go ahead, Josh.
Hey DJ, yeah, I'm Joshua Hadley. I live up in Kotzebue, Alaska. I've been elected to the city council up here back in October. I'm also serving as the treasurer of the Green Party of Alaska, and I'm self-appointed the president of the Kotzebue Chess Club. Everyone here knows about that. And I've been asked to moderate this debate here today. I'm just letting everyone know I have YouTube open over here. There's the chatting, but just let it on the viewing audience. So if you have a question, go ahead and type it in here, and I can't promise to get through all of them, but I'll certainly read off the most interesting ones.
Okay. Anything else?
No,
Share your contact information right quick or your social media.
I'm not doing social media. Just if you see me on the street, any kind word will be appreciated.
Thank you. All right. Just to quickly introduce myself, my name's DJ Elf7. I'm actually one of the organizers for today's event. And the thing is that, just so you know, Josh Hadley is actually from Green Party, Alaska, an indigenous man. And he actually, Jill Stein and, Chase Oliver, a lot of these big name candidates, third party candidates, are actually eating up the news versus these candidates here who, for some reason, cannot be picked up by the media. And I'm sorry to say that there's been a whole bunch of shenanigans going on inside the Green Party where an indigenous man, a man already elected to city council, Josh Hadley, was actually, his chapter was de-recognized without any real discussion, without any form of voting at all. And, while Jill Stein paints herself as a savior for, war victims while silencing war victims and indigenous peoples, that's now we find ourselves running to other candidates like we have today to find, in frustration and hoping that we can be heard. So thank you so much for participating today. We start going round robin through the candidates. I believe let's start off with I think Dennis is actually at the top of the list. So go ahead, Dennis. Why don't you introduce yourself? Dennis, are you ready? Dennis, I think you're muted.
I'm learning the technical aspects of your program, which is very good, by the way. I just want to be brief here. I'm Dennis Andrew Ball. I am a candidate for President of the United States under the party that I created in 1995, known as the American Party of America, the American National Committee. I'm actually touring to Washington, D.C. Why? Because right now we have a problem getting on the ballot. Even RFK Jr. recognized this, and he withdrew his candidacy and joined Trump. The problem is the Democrats and Republicans have put a stranglehold on ballot access by creating a signature requirement that is way beyond most people's ability to fulfill, which is a monopoly and an antitrust issue. I think if living today, Theodore Roosevelt would be all over this. I'm a hybrid American, and I am proceeding with the ACLU to get all 50 states engaged through the federal court system to challenge these legislators. What they have done is created a monopoly on candidates for president or parties to become ballot eligible for their names, and if they have a party, for their party to be on the ballot. Assuming that the party is not here to destroy America, including candidates, we believe that that is our constitutional right to be on the ballot. Consequentially, these whistle stops that I'm doing, I'm actually getting the media engaged. I've had several, and I'm continuing. I'll be in Terre Haute, Indiana on the 21st, which is next Saturday. I'm currently campaigning in Mount Vernon, Illinois. I stopped in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and had a terrific campaign rally, and the media was there to cover it. Getting the media engaged in your campaign is so vital. People are so laissez-faire.
And how can
so
people,
apathetic.
just so you know, I think your finger's rubbing on the mic. I keep hearing this little creaking noise. It does seem to
Okay.
be timed with when your phone to be tilting up and down. The sound kind of went away now. But if you could share your social media so people can keep on track of your travels and of your work, how can people find out more about your site or about your campaign?
Right. Two ways. One is the AOA-ANC.org website. They will see what's going on. I also have a bookstore there. I'm actually an author and a scholar. I've written 66 titles, more coming, on the specific problems and solutions for our society. As long as the Democrats and Republicans have a stranglehold on the political universe, the American people are going to continue to suffer.
I agree
We
with
need
that, sir.
living wage jobs, issues that they're not wanting to talk about.
We're good. Right.
That's the problem, and it has to do much with the way they have structured the political system. That's what motivated me to get into politics, especially when the Clintons were in office.
Thank you so much,
And
Dennis.
they're-
Yeah, we're going to get to all that in a moment. Yeah, I do want to run through all the candidates right quick, so we'll hear more about that. Blake,
bet.
do you want to introduce yourself right quick?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry. I'm going on to Blake. Yeah, Blake, you want to introduce yourself right quick?
Sure, you bet. So again, thanks, Susan, for helping support this debate, and thank you for having me. So I'm going to say something unusual, and I'll get on to introducing myself. I don't want your vote. Please don't vote for me. If you're able to vote for me, I'm only on the ballot in Colorado. I don't want your vote. We'll get more into that later. So my name is Blake Huber. I've been a longtime activist since the 70s when I first ran for public office. This is my second time running for president, my third time being on a national ticket. This is the third time I've run against Trump.
Cool.
And I'm trying to think of anything else that would be important as an introduction.
Well, you want to share like your website or
So
how people
go
can
to
follow you?
approvalvotingparty.com. You can email us there. You can call us at 720-439-6000. If no one answers, we'll get back to you as soon as we can. You can also send a text there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. What next? Let's go on to Brian from an American Union.
All right. Thanks for putting this panel together tonight and for hosting it. DGL7. My name is Brian. I'm a former state representative. I served 3 terms in New Hampshire in the state house, and I got a chance to see how the sausage was made from the inside. And as everyone here knows, our political system is broken. And so using the skills that I learned as a political organizer and applying principles of nonviolence and developed a better way to make politics work for the people. And so I founded the American Union. So I'm not running for president like Blake. I'm not asking for your vote, but I'm asking you to vote together with the American Union, because here's the truth. Either Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, one of them is going to be elected the next president of the United States. That's just how it's going to work out. And so the power is held by the swing voters who are going to decide which one it is. Those are the people in the United States who have leverage over the political system. And so we can trade that leverage for political power to make policy changes, because that's why everyone here is running, because they want to change policy and make it work for the people, which I assume that's why people run. So the American Union flips the model around, and instead we wrote down exactly what it is that we want Congress to get done in order for a union of swing voters to let them keep their jobs. And you can read the legislative package. This is the Trump-Biden peace plan on our website, AnAmericanUnion.com. And it does three main things. It ends poverty with unconditional basic income. It ends mass incarceration with major criminal justice reform. And it ends the endless wars by downsizing the military-industrial complex and focusing on channeling those resources into more productive things. And so if you actually want to solve problems in the United States, the solution isn't to form a third party. The solution is to work together as a union so we can collectively bargain for a better social contract. And if you want to know more, please visit the website. And look forward to talking to the other candidates this evening.
That's
Thanks.
the website is anamericanunion.org, correct?
.com.
Oh, .com, I'm sorry, okay. Just so you know, Brian from American Union is actually my Act of the Year for 2022, I believe, or 2023, one of those years. He's very good, and actually he has the email list for every single federal candidate running for office. He's actually provided for me in a former year, a very valuable resource for any candidate. He's also formally elected, and he's actually moved to North Carolina specifically because it's a swing state to expand the reach of a very essential part of his program. And just so you know, we were part of UPA, and we actually instituted, we tried RCV, we tried approval voting. That's something Blake talked about. I think most of our votes were actually done using approval voting at the end, just because it was the simplest and easiest to use. So, there's certain depth here, and I really appreciate you. And talking about depth, Davi over here, he's actually exceeded expectations in a lot of ways. He actually brought the most people to our last debate, and I've actually been pretty impressed at his ability to get on the ballot in other places. So, Davi, it's time for you to introduce yourself. Go ahead, Davi.
Greetings. Thank you for that lovely introduction, Ed. Greetings to my fellow humans of our great nation, America. We made it. We made it to the presentation of a core solution for our society with no more room for complaints. New conversations for new results in our nation and in our world. I am Davi, artist, tech founder, 2021 candidate for mayor of New York City, and avatar of Earth. In 2020, in New York City, I vowed to ensure the sacred protection, harmony, and natural evolution of humanity and Earth. I am running to earn your vote in 2024 as the President of America and leader of the free world. My website is bydavi.com, bydavi.com. I am an independent presidential candidate. Last month, I received third place out of the candidates who ran for the Green Party presidential nomination of 2024. A monumental achievement considering I am the youngest presidential candidate, and our campaign has no external financial backing. A first-time self-funded grassroots volunteer-based campaign. This campaign is from our hearts to the hearts of America so that maybe we can get to a new heartbeat. My focus includes rehabilitation and recycling, providing healing-oriented support for those ailing in body, mind, and or behavior, finding harmony and balance between usage and contribution to Earth. The American Refresh, a 4-year transition where through paced collective voting, Americans vote for the exact government we want moving forward, intentionally managing the growth of technology. And the mediator wing of the police, an emergency mediator wing of the police that on demand mediates tough situations and conversations without guns, batons, or slow court dates. The red and blue, election after election, have proven to the American voter their commitment to war and disaster and their missing commitment to the core principles of humanity and the preservation of our Earth. But that's just a choice. We can make another. The red and blue have had their chance to lead the way. And as a nation, wouldn't you agree that we're going the wrong way? I'm here to present another way, another choice of vision called Earth Order. I'm going to explain the core points, and if you believe this will be better for the humans of America, you can agree by saying indeed in your private home quarters when I point to you. Earth Order is a new choice that offers direct democracy, an online voting system that allows us to ongoingly vote for the exact government that we want moving forward. A new choice that provides equal salaries for chosen work. A new choice where all have access to quality housing through a housing exchange. A new choice that covers all healthcare costs. I heard at least 4 indeeds out there in the atmosphere. I think that means you should support what you have agreed is better for the humans of America. The things that you want for our American society, regardless of which candidate is presenting it and how it's being presented. We're going to go deeper into what is called the Declaration of American Human Governance and Human First America Coalition, which provides a new pathway for us to actively vote for, number one, American governance, ensuring that corporations and AI are not running our lives. And then furthermore, the presidential vote, which we are ongoingly part of right now, from July 4th to November 4th, a possibility for the people to actually voice what their vote for president is, regardless of state voter registration requirements, etc. So thank you for this great opportunity to debate with everyone. Looking forward to the conversation.
All right. Pretty good. Pretty appreciate that, Davi. All right, let's move on to Paul Fiorino. You want to present yourself? Go ahead. I think you're muted, Paul.
Oh, there we are.
Okay.
Hi, folks. I'm Paul Fiorino. I'm here in Colorado, too, so I want to say hi to Blake and the Approval Party. I know Frank Atwood is also running in CD4. I'm the Unity Party candidate and was briefly, for a week, a presidential candidate until Dr. Cornel West came to Denver in April, and we made him the presidential candidate, which I hope he's enjoying. And the opportunity for me now is to serve the district I grew up in and still have connections in many ways. I was a graduate of Douglas County High School, and Douglas County has the largest voter base at 47% right now. We're going up against several contenders, a couple of libertarians as well as Frank Atwood and the Approval Party. And then, of course, Lauren Boebert, who has come over from District 3. So she wants to get reelected in District 4 because she's wanting to, retain her seat in Congress. So, this is what Congress is all about, too, is retaining seats every 2 years. With that said, I've already run for governor of Colorado, almost 6 times it will be, because this election also leads to other things, as the Approval Party is trying to bring across a new system in voting. And we have another very rich billionaire here in Colorado who's got commercials running currently about the ranked voting and another popular vote system. So that's on the ballot. People are on the ballot, but there's a lot of systems also, which is rather interesting. And that's part of dealing with a growing democracy. I have a couple of those codes, if you'd like to, you'll find me. But the codes I have put out, I feel are the new way to communicate, and get to, to communicate easily. So there you go. I'm Paul Noel Fiorino for Colorado, Unity, and CD4.
Hey, Fiorino, if you
Okay,
actually,
I'm gonna sign off because the Broncos just lost their home game, and I don't want to see me crying.
hey, actually, if you send me those QR codes, I'll actually flash those at the end of the program. If anybody else has something they want to put on the screen, I'll put that on at the end. Okay. I think actually you might be able to even present your screens. Okay. Maybe through Google Meet. I'm not sure exactly. Okay. Anyways, we're about ready to get started with the. I believe that's all the candidates. I think Susan already made her presentation. Unless there's one, I think that's also the last candidate. Susan, is there anything else you want to add right quick before we actually start off with the actual debate itself?
Yeah, if I could.
No.
So I limited what I was saying because I want to make sure everybody had time. So there's a couple of things I just want to mention. We talk about people being in third parties. That's not quite true. That diminishes what we're trying to do. We are in alternative parties because we are the alternative. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Susan, actually. Yeah. Go ahead.
So, no, I'm fine. I guess one thing I do want to say is actually you don't have to be in a party to be a presidential candidate. You don't have to be in a party to be any candidate. So, by being in a party, you actually trap yourself into the rules and regulations that the states want you to follow. So by actually taking yourself out and being a write-in candidate, then you're free. They can't control you because you're not in a party. So just to put that out there. And yeah, so I am official in every state, but sadly there are about maybe 8 states that won't put a little space where you can write in a presidential candidate's name. So I have to work on getting those states to change their ways and to put that on their ballot. Put a space so that presidential candidates can be written in those eight or 9 states, whatever they are. So that's the next step.
Excellent.
And that's
Okay.
it for now.
All right. So I always like to start with my friends first. So Josh, why don't you ask the first question of the debate if you want? Go ahead.
Well, considering that the topic that's often at the top of the polls for what the voters are interested in, what is your plan to change the economy of the United States? Say if you're elected president, or well, some people aren't necessarily running. So, what's your plan to be involved and have people vote the way you want them to say doing this will help the economy of the United States? Let's start with Susan. So what's your economic plan for the United States? Say you do become president.
Well, currently our United States, we are the shoppers of the world, actually. And that's fine to shop around the world and to shop in our own country, but I think a lot of people go into bankruptcy, or they go into debt, I should say, just doing too much shopping. So I think one thing I do want to do is we got a lot of people who are unemployed who have or could have skills. So I think we need to really introduce a apprenticeship program for all levels of society and get people working again. There's, from COVID, we still got a lot of people who aren't working or who don't want to work or don't know where to go. And we need to slowly introduce them to career choices. But I think most importantly, we need to start buying U.S. products. We've supported China enough, and Taiwan, and, just all these nations that are producing cheap products, or at least sellable cheap products. We need to support our neighbors. We need to put our people back to work and show our own ingenuity as a country and as a people. So I want to put, buy USA is what we need to do. And
Okay,
I
that's
want to
a-
bring farms back locally. We need to just move more locally. We've spread everything out. It's time to reduce and focus on us, on the people.
Okay, that's a good answer. By the way, Josh, as the moderator, you will get to call all the different answers. You can ask for clarification if you want, and then you will also be responsible for making sure. I would just say try to get 1 or 2 ideas out from the answers, and then try not to go too long. But once again, it's up to you because you're the moderator, right? So, go ahead, Josh. We'll get that settled. So, from now
Well,
on,
I just wanted to ask too, a bit informal. So how long do you want these answers to go? Like 3-4 minutes?
It's up to
You
you,
want me to
really. When you
stop
feel like
people?
the question, some people can answer the question eloquently, which is, with a quick, succinct answer. Some people like to go on. Just do what you think is responsible, right? As a moderator, it's your job to make the decision about what's an appropriate answer. If they're going on too long, it shouldn't be some artificial rule, right? If they're doing a great job, if they're really turning on with new information, let them go. If they're really just repeating themselves, cut it out. You know what I mean? Go ahead. All right, Josh.
Well, same question to Brian. Say, well, you're not necessarily running to become president, but what you're doing, making a union of independent voters who aren't necessarily, like, I'm not sure what you're planning on having these people do, vote for Harris or Trump. Like, what would your message to them be? Like, how can they, how's this gonna affect their economic worries? What's your plan with that?
So the power of a union of voters is that you're able to be the deciders. And so the question is, well, what can we use that power to get? What sort of changes can we deliver to the American people in exchange for our votes? And so the legislative package, we're going to fix the economic system in the United States, restructure it with unconditional basic income. We're going to establish a safety floor that no American family can fall beneath. Be $16,800 a year for adults, a third of that, $5,600 a year for kids. And that'll start everybody at the poverty line. You can use capitalism to build as high as you want up from there, but we're going to make sure that we're looking out for each other as citizens. Right now, we have hundreds of thousands of people who are homeless in this country. We have 30 million people who are food insecure. We have 140 million people who are living in or near poverty. And we can fix this. Unconditional basic income is the simplest, easiest way to do so. And so that's the American Union Jobs Program is a key part of these legislative demands, ending poverty. And so it's I don't know how much we want to get into the weeds of specific policies, but unconditional basic income is basically capitalism that doesn't start at zero. The free market isn't free. It takes little pieces of paper, little tokens to participate. And so by ensuring everyone has enough money to meet their basic need, we're going to make the free market work better. And we're going to make sure that we're looking out for each other, and so that people aren't struggling in the richest nation on the planet. We should all be ashamed that we're allowing 12 million American children to go to sleep in poverty tonight. What do you expect them to do? Go out and get jobs? We should be looking out for each other as citizens, and that's what a union can do. Help us look out for each other.
Thank you, Brian. And same question to you, Davi. Say you become president, what is your plan to, defeat the economic foes that the citizens of the United States battle against every day? Like, how are you going to improve the citizens' lives? I think you're...
Davi's muted.
Like we discussed earlier, I plan to add a fourth branch of the government called Earth Order America, which is a direct stem into the popular American vote to government, so that the people's voice is echoed directly within the government. So it's a holistic approach. It's not just one aspect. So the one aspect that we are talking about is economy, and at the very core of it, right? Someone actually has to be fighting for Earth and the actual humans of America, not some corporation or nonprofit chasing a grant or fulfilling statistics. The humans of America need an economy that contributes back to humanity, not just the pockets of investors. The Davi for President 2024 campaign is the force of the natural realm. While they base their future on fear and greed, we can base our future on love and growth. A full, holistic, comprehensive plan that allows for any American, as soon as you sign up to Earth Order America, you will immediately receive $5,000 in terms of a signing bonus that will allow you time to choose your next steps. What type of business do you either want to contribute to or create? Being debt-free, having the option to opt out of capitalism so that you can begin with full medical care coverage, so that you can choose your life out of what you want to contribute to the American human collective, to have a salary that is guaranteed by the government so that you can focus on optimizing your life and your doing rather than you're just surviving. My campaign automatically creates a new voluntary middle class whose incentive is no longer just making more money in a pointless way, but rather the incentive is to increase the quality of life for Americans in whichever way, in whichever imagination, in whichever innovation our upcoming generations of America will be able to access. I'm not here to play games with people. I'm here to allow you to fully play in this game we call American human living.
Thank you, Davi. And Blake, remember you mentioned before that you don't really want people voting for you. So, what is exactly your thought behind that? As when someone goes, maybe even right now, as they fill the absentee ballots, when they go to the polls in November, they're considering, economic issues like how they're going to put food on the table. What are they going to still have a job in a couple of years? How, what's you know, how is what you're doing in the election, your involvement in it, and how you want people to vote, going to contribute to them, being able to battle these um, fears or perhaps issues they have when it comes to, their wallet.
Well, thanks for the question, Josh, and I'm going to answer that in a couple of different ways. First of all, I want you to be able to vote for all the people you like. Okay. If you like Davi, vote for Davi. If you like Susan, vote for Susan. If you like Paul or Dennis, vote for Paul or Dennis or Brian. You want to vote for the person that represents you best. So you have a ballot. You mark that ballot for all the candidates you like, whether you decide your criteria is issues or policy or whatever you determine as your criteria, you mark the ballot for those people. So if you want to vote for Davi's more human government, you can vote for him and everybody else that represents that concept for that particular office. Who's ever marked on the most ballots, that's the candidate gets elected, and then we win because we haven't wasted our vote. We've actually expressed ourselves fully at the ballot box. So that's been important. Now, let me also answer the question you asked of everybody else, and I want to react to some of the people and what they said. First of all, Susan, I really enjoy your passionate Buy American speech, but let's think about that. If Buy American, this is what the journey I've gone through myself. If Buy American is good, then I used to live in Kansas, then Buy Kansas is good. If Kansas is good, then Buy Topeka is good. And you can get that down to Buy Neighborhood is good. But no, I want to support people in other countries who can produce what I want to buy at the lowest cost. And then I'm supporting them in the free market. Brian, you talked about a union. I'm a former union steward. I totally get what you're talking about, and I love it. But within that, you want to have a basic living wage, a basic amount that people get automatically, basic income. Who's going to pay for that? Are you going to force me to pay for Davi's basic income? I suggest a different way of looking at it. And is it Dennis? Yes, Dennis, I haven't heard from you yet, so I can't react to what you're saying. And Paul, I'm so sorry the Broncos are losing. So that's important as well. So my economic platform is very simple. Reduce the size of government, reduce the number of things that are affecting people who want to produce for themselves. So if you're a sole proprietor, why do you have to pay taxes? Let's eliminate all taxation on sole proprietors. The big corporations, the people who make lots of money, millions of dollars, yeah, they can help support the economy. No, not the economy, the government. But you and I, as individuals, why are we being taxed? What is a woman who wants to cut hair or have a beauty salon in her house? Why does she have to go through all the regulation that somebody that wants to do it as a business in a shopping mall has to go through? Why can't that person do it on their own without all this government regulation? And Davi, I love you, man, but I don't want a fourth branch of government. I don't want more government. I want less government. Thanks for the question.
Absolutely, and I'm just gonna let the candidates know after we got two more to ask about economics and perhaps if there's interest, we'll do some responses. And I think it's what the people want too. This is supposed to be a debate after all. It's not fun when one agrees with each other. But so the question goes to you, Dennis. Say you get elected to the presidency, what's your plan to improve the economic situation of the citizens of the United States?
Well, I must tell you that I have a program called Ballonomics, and I have written a book about it, lifting America and the world out of poverty from the bottom up. It is a noble concept to build skilled labor back into the United States. I have studied this quite literally, and I have studied the nations of the world who have used the American model to profit, to improve the quality of the life of their people, and I think that's a good thing. But we, the American people, are having to work 2 and 3 jobs just to survive, let alone maybe even be on welfare, food stamps, Medicare, Medicaid, whatever. The realities are industry must return to the United States. And in order to do that, I believe that AI right now is helping that. You look from articles that are being written from the United States, China has encountering their factories going dark. That means that production in China is declining for a lot of different reasons. These other nations, not to say that they shouldn't be manufacturing as well, but not at the expense of the American worker and his family or her family. We have the need, since the end of World War II, to reindustrialize the United States. I have said that 11 years ago on a YouTube video that I created when I began to run for president. The situation being that reindustrializing the middle class, to me, is job one. In order for that to happen, I believe we have to have skilled labor. President Kennedy believed that, and as a consequence, I believe that. The situation is we are way overburdened with debt load created by the Federal Reserve Act. That needs to change. I do concur with Blake on the taxes issue, income tax, property tax. That should go away. The only tax I want to see is a fair tax on spending. Spending, including corporations, can participate, and to reduce the size of government, which it would, because you would have less income coming in, which means a lot of government workers would have to be retrained, and they can be retrained in industries that will provide them a living wage and take the burden off the American taxpayer. That, I believe, is a recipe for success. I continue to promote it. I have this book on Amazon.com along with my other 66 books. I am a scholar and an author, and I believe it is time the American people get smart and educated. As a consequence, the American Party of America, the American National Committee, is here to be a vehicle to provide the support for that to happen. And we would like to see offices in every county, in every state, holding classes, educating our people. They can read my books and others, become candidates, run for office, win elections, and go in with a force of people behind them to change the culture from within. You can burn down the country, but you can never restore it until you address these issues of economic prosperity and living wage jobs. So I'm honored that I have this opportunity to express myself to all of you, and as a scholar and an author, I am tremendously proud of where we can go and what we must do now. I really believe that.
Thank you, Dennis. And just letting the viewing audience know, I'm not gonna try to unfairly cut off anyone. I'm keeping an eye on the time, and so far no one has gone over 4 minutes, which is, I really appreciate that. And finally, on economics, or well, this economic question specifically, Paul, I don't know if you're necessarily on the ballot or if Cornell West is on the ballot instead, as I think you talked about in your place. So, um, first, I guess I'll ask you two questions, maybe give you an extra minute to explain. Um, are you advocating for people to vote for Cornell West as part of your party, or are you also on the ballot? And whatever way you want people to vote, how would them going with your plan improve their economic situation?
Thanks again for putting this on too. Again, the I am on the ballot again, and that is for CD4. That is for the CD4 opportunity to run for Congress. So I was put on the ballot because of my relationship with that district, because we really did fill our roster of candidates, and they are now certified and have placement. So Cornell West should be under the UP, or he will be marked as an independent, because you can just, like I say, any party that has 1,000 members and has been running properly should be able to set a plank, and that's what the Unity Party has done this year. And so it's pretty complete on the national level, not so much the state level. I mean, we need people to run for office. Let's, really, honest to gosh, Dennis, thanks for educating the public. And that's education. We can't emphasize how important that is. I mean, it's a national security factor. And, this attack on public schools is really a drag. I mean, I'm open to all sorts of education, but now let's attack each other in this education, or burning books, and just, I don't know. It makes me really uneasy, as you see. But the opportunity we have is to educate by running for office, because those that are contenders are reading our stuff, and I've seen fruition, in the mayorals and the city councils, and even my run against Congresswoman DeGette in 2020, which really was my introduction into the Unity Party. With that, I want to also just express the importance of the unaffiliated voter out there, who really is the deciding factor in this election, but also with Colorado, because they now obtain the highest in registration, okay, and over any and above. So those are the people that, again, by starting that movement, running for governor in 2006 by petition, I hope people will recognize the name, if the name is any case, but also what I've, accomplished in my professional career as a nonprofit individual, and an artist, and a musician, who actually served. I was a union member of AGMA, and also of the 623 here in Denver. So I support unions, absolutely, and the UBI makes sense. And I was asking, how people feel that it would affect the deficit.
Well, thanks for that. Sorry, thanks for that, Paul. And there was some contention here with earlier, and this is a debate after all. So, was there anyone here that was interested in responding to what anyone had to say? How about Brian? I know you wanted to say something.
Yeah, thanks. A couple people have raised the questions, and Again, the details are spelled out in the legislative package. You can read on the website, but the short version is unconditional basic income is paid for in three basic ways. One of them is what Dennis hinted at, is a consumption tax, a value-added tax. Another offset is a pollution fees. We're causing a lot of damage to the environment, and by taxing pollution, so that the cost of things better reflects the damage that's caused, we'll have an economic incentive to pollute less. And then the third way that unconditional basic income is paid for is by fixing our monetary system. Dennis recognized that our national debt, actually all sorts of debt, has ballooned in the United States because we're doing money backwards. We're creating money as debt, instead of just recognizing that a growth in the money supply is a normal and natural thing, just like it's normal and natural for a child to grow. As our economy grows, we need to add more money to the money supply. But we're doing it backwards. We're adding it at the top of the economic ladder and hoping that some of it will trickle down to the bottom, when instead we should be adding it at the bottom as unconditional basic income, so we can create a trickle-up economy that works for all of us. That's how we can pay for unconditional basic income and address so many other social problems that poverty causes, all at the same time.
Thank you, Brian, and I see Blake has his hand up, so how about you, Blake? Did you want to respond as well?
I do, yes. So everything you said, Brian, I totally understand. I know where you're coming from, but everything you said, I'm going to pay for somebody's basic income. It's going to fall on me as a consumer. It's going to fall on, not on companies that pollute, but on people who buy things from companies who pollute. Now, I make choices in my own life. I drive a Tesla. You can see it in the background. I am very involved in green policy, okay? But I don't want to force it down anybody's throat. And UBI is being forced down people's throats. So if we have a free economy, if people are independent business people, if they can put forth their own efforts and make their own money and fail if they fail, but take that risk, I think that's a much better solution than give somebody a handout and say, we'll just raise the prices on everybody because now you have the money to spend. Thanks for the time.
Absolutely. Was there anyone else interested in a response before we go to the next
Blake, I think, Blake, you're looking at this backwards. Unconditional basic income is a pre-fund on the taxes. So for a family of four, is going to collect $40-some thousand a year in unconditional basic income, but they're going to have to spend more than $250,000 before they pay that back through higher taxes. So the people who spend the least pay the least, and the people at the top 20% or however it works out, are the people who are going to be paying more than they get in unconditional basic income. That's how you can address poverty. And if you don't want to pay the taxes, then you don't consume so much.
Josh, Dennis has his hand up, but I'd like to respond.
Yeah, we'll go. Blake, say one more thing, and then Dennis, we'll go to him.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dennis.
Yes, sir. I want to say that I believe the family is the issue of our time. It's been so much under assault and attack by forces foreign to its ability to survive and thrive. What I believe we're talking about here is the ability for a family who can survive on a living wage job rather than minimum wage. You cannot raise a family on minimum wage. The tax structure that has been created in this society actually incentivizes corporations like BlackRock and others to monopolize our system of government for their own profit. If you own a home and it's paid off, you don't own it. If you fail to pay your property tax, they can foreclose and take it from you within a certain period of time if you cannot pay the tax. Say something happens in your life that causes your income to be tremendously reduced. I know right now some situations because people come to me every day with their problems. where the man had a job in Miami-Dade County. He was an elevator inspector. He had a seven-figure income through the local government there. Unbeknownst to him, people were conspiring to get him fired. They did fire him without cause. As a consequence from that period 3 years ago, he has been hospitalized. He had serious, serious problems, heart, lung, pancreas. His wife has been his caregiver. He's been at times very difficult to deal with, to say the least. All of this has a tremendously negative impact because of other people. This, I think, needs to be transparent. We need to talk about the emotional toll and damage and harm that is happening within our culture and society, regardless of your race. If you're not fighting for your family, who are you living and working for? And I can tell you right now that the love of money has caused so much harm to so many within this boomer generation that it is appalling to me that we cannot survive as a society with a constitution that was made for a moral people with so much immoral behavior going on around us and impacting our economics as if it is by design.
Thank you, Dennis. And
Okay.
I'm just
I am very
cutting you
sorry,
off because
but,
it's been 3
we
minutes.
can do that later. Okay.
Yeah, I'm watching the time, and just for the fairness of all the candidates, I'll try to keep it 3 minutes. But Blake wanted to say one more thing. Then we'll go to Davi and Susan, and we'll see if.
Thank you,
we'll go
Josh.
to
And
DJ's question.
I do want things to move along, so I do appreciate. But I want to say one thing to Brian. As you make more money, you're able to save more. So what you're considering with a consumption tax is a tax that's progressive on the poorest people in the country. If I have to buy groceries and I have to pay rent and all these other things, a consumption tax is really going to levy higher against me than somebody make $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, where those basic needs are covered. Thank you.
Thank you, Blake, and Davi. You've been waiting. I know you want to respond as well. Davi, I think you're muted.
So earlier, Blake incorrectly mentioned that Earth Order America would be increasing government, and I just want to clarify that Earth Order actually, it's not about an increase or decrease, it's about how efficiently the government is operating. So making sure that there's direct democracy based on people's vote is updating the system so that we are not hoping that representatives in Congress reflect our desires, because obviously that system's not working. So if we are actually the arbiters and the deciders of what we want in government, then we are actually decreasing the amount of turbulence in between our voice and our result. Secondly, the premise of basic income does not protect, this is about Brian's comment, the premise of basic income does not protect everyday Americans from, number one, inflation, or number two, aggressive capitalism. If you decide that there is a number that people can reach at this point, the corporations are going to decide that they can increase how much things cost. So you have to actually have a holistic approach to the solution that you're applying to society, because things do not work in isolation. There is no single issue person, therefore there is no single issue that will address the American society.
Thank you, Davi, and we're gonna let Susan respond, and then we're going to move on to DJ's his first question.
Okay, so first off, I just want to say to Brian and everyone who was listening earlier, he said that we are the richest country in the world, and that's not true. We have the biggest economy. The richest country is actually Luxembourg in Europe. So we have the biggest economy, and that doesn't mean that we're the best economy either. That means that we are the shoppers of the world. So we really need to focus on shopping with our own people and bringing the money back here a little bit. We don't have to be the biggest economy. We can get along just being a good economy, and China is fast approaching our levels too. So anyway, it's not important the size of our economy, actually. It's more important, are we taking care of our people? And one thing that I noticed during, this whole campaign and back in 22 when I was running is the one group of people that are actually not being paid for their important work are mothers. And so one of my main platform pieces, and everybody here was talking about family, and that's why I wanted to chime back in, because we need to pay mothers for their important work. And we've become a nation of making parents hobbyists. Parents do it on the sly. They all have to work 2 and 3 jobs, and it's not working. And we're seeing the results of that in angry young people, shootings, gangs, rapes. I mean, just everything. So we need to change our family unit a little bit, and we need to pay someone to stay home and raise kids. You don't raise a kid in 1 week, you don't raise them in 1 year. It takes 20 years. So it's a 20-year commitment to be a parent, and the parent or the child needs love throughout that time. So in my platform, I plan to pay someone to stay home. Approximately 100,000 is what I'm coming to terms with, and depending on part of the country, it might be 80,000 or 100,000, because in cities you need a little bit more. In country living, you don't need as much. But anyway, the details will come out later when the project really gets rolling. But we need to pay someone to be home 24 hours a day during those 20 years of the child growing up, because it takes 20 years to raise a child. The satellite parent, whoever that might be, I mean, my concept is it's mothers that stay home, especially at the beginning, because breastfeeding is needed and men can't really do that. And, the nurturing part of from 0 to 5 years old, it falls naturally into the woman's category, you know. But I don't have a problem with men. Like if in a couple, if a man wants to stay home, or if it's a gay couple and one of the men, of course, wants to stay home, then it will work that way too. But the point is that somebody stays home and is there. We've taken away all the adults in children's lives, and that's another reason why we have so many children that are confused and having, all these suicides and everything else. Then I would like
Yeah.
to pay like the satellite person to just have 1 day off a week to also be a parent, to come home and really spend time with their children, because our children are also only so small for so long, and a lot of people are missing it because they have to work 2 and 3 jobs. So this will alleviate at least one of those jobs, or maybe even two, that person can have also a better quality of life. So I know some people were talking about UBI. This is sort of a UBI, but it's not, because you have to work. You have things that you have to do. And there's plenty of time for schooling. We're living it to be 80, 90, 100 now. There's plenty of time to be that doctor or the lawyer or whatever you want to be later. You don't have to do it all at the same time when you're 20, when you're most
Yeah.
fertile as a female. So what
Thank
works
you,
for
Susan.
men doesn't work for women. But yeah, so that's part of it. And the other thing I want to say is the other way that I want to help families and young people is anyone making under $100,000 a year should not have to pay taxes, period. That also helps with the older people who are getting Social Security. So anyone earning under 100,000 a year should not have to pay federal taxes whatsoever
Okay.
on income.
We appreciate that. And finally, our favorite street activist, DJL7. Let's turn it over to him, and as he asks his first question of the night.
All right, folks, what's up? It's DJL7 in the house. And the thing is, I'm sorry. Yeah, we're moving on to the next question. All right, folks, so check it out right here. Yeah. I'm gonna combine this question with a little bit of a rant right here, just so you know. Okay, now the thing is that right now, the fact of the matter is that I remember when I was watching like things happening during the Iraq War type of thing, right? I remember there was an interview with one of the generals, and one of the generals said, "Oh, you know what? The U.S. can last 3 sustained wars." Now, right now, we're in Russia and Ukraine, Israel-Palestine is going off, and I swear to God that China, Taiwan, or Korea is about to pop off real soon, right? So the thing is that one of the idea is that that idea that U.S. only has enough resources to last 3 major encounters. I think that's being put to the test right now. Now, right now, a lot of people say the U.S. is an empire in decline. In an environment where we have spies like Governor Hochul, right? Linda's son was actually accused of being a spy, and also for Grace Meng, a vice chair of the DNC, running, being her chief of staff. This is happening locally here right now, right? By the way, Grace Meng is paid $300,000, right? Yeah, by IPAC, right? That's 1.75 times her yearly salary in Congress. She should register as a foreign agent. Not only that, right? But the thing is that the top donations from AOC is only $21,000 a month, and the top donation to Nydia Velázquez, the first Puerto Rican congresswoman in the United States, is going to be $30,000. $30,000 for a campaign, not $30,000 a month. $30,000 for a campaign and $21,000 for AOC, but it's $300,000 for Grace Meng, and her former chief of staff was just found to be working for China. You need to wake up, folks. This is all public knowledge. This is disgusting and wrong. So I'm sorry to just go on that little side, but in this world where the U.S. is starting to lose its dominance in technology, losing its military dominance, how does the U.S. either handle this decline, right, or fix it, or how does it adapt to this new position in world affairs? I'm gonna start off with we're gonna go from the top. I think Dennis is on my screen right now, so go ahead, Dennis. You want us to answer that? Go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to, get into foreign policy, but I want to say this before I do. Susan made some good comments, and I want to say this: Child Protective Services is stealing children every year to the tune of $200,000 for each child. They are stealing children without cause. These family courts are becoming licensed to steal our children and our future, creating trauma in the family structure. We're talking about the family again. I think that that's an issue that has not been addressed in politics. It needs to be. We know that the state governments are making money off this. As a result, they keep quiet about it.
I'm sorry, as a moderator, if you could just I know you want to keep answering the last question, but you're already kind of going on. Your time is really running out. You need to really start answering this question, and then we're going to move on. I'm sorry, I'm going to really be like that, yeah? So answer the question now. What's your foreign plan right now for handling the U.S.'s new position as not really, it's losing power. It's an empire in decline.
Are you talking about what's going on in Israel, or are we talking about what's going on in Ukraine? Which area of foreign policy are you talking about?
Just America's relationship with the world, right? Are you going to?
Oh, okay.
What's your plan to?
I have a book. Again, I am an author and a scholar. I have a book called The Ball Doctrine: Creating Peace and Prosperity in Every Nation. What is that book about? That book talks about Agenda 21, the big lie, where the United Nations becomes a world government, and it causes the nations to have to adapt to their wishes and their policies. The Ball Doctrine talks about creating a middle class in every nation, where families and children are able to support and be supported through creating industry, skilled labor, education. I will say this, John Kerry said, there would need to be 60 million jobs in the Middle East to support what needs to change in that country. You can't eat oil.
Okay,
So
that's a
let us
pretty good
talk about
that's a pretty good
jobs.
answer right there. Okay. Besides that, is there anything else really that you want to add? Because really, that kind of makes sense to me. No? Okay. Let's move on to Susan. Did you have a particular? How would you address, America's declining dominance in the world?
So I'm okay with America's declining dominance. We're not the police of the world, and we've tried to do it, and I've been watching it happen my whole life, and it's not pretty. We're constantly getting into these wars that are endless, and it's just destroying other people's lives.
Okay, so what do we do about it?
So, yeah, first off, we have to slowly retreat from the wars that we're in. All wars end in negotiation anyway, so we have to go back to our neutral stance that we had at the beginning of last century and stop being the police of the world but we can be the negotiators of the world. Let's start talking peace. Let's start finding solutions.
Okay.
The UN,
We're
I
just
agree, the UN is trying to take over, and also this other organization, the World Economic Forum. So I think we need to be in charge of our own country and our own region. We need to work more with Canada and Mexico and the South American countries and become our own unit here before, you know, we can really contemplate this whole global thing. So I am okay with getting smaller or getting more, not smaller, but getting more focused on ourselves.
there's
I
also
still want to promote
yeah.
peace
Also,
around the world.
besides the war thing, there's also right the economic thing like BRICS, right? Yeah, where there's new exclusion, like U.S. exclusionary trade deals going down, things like that. Just you know, if you want to incorporate that as well.
Well, you know, again, I think we have a lot of resources right here.
Okay,
And, you know,
that's a good answer.
flying things everywhere, sending things everywhere, it's not helping anybody.
Okay, that's a good
We
answer,
all
right?
have
Yeah, so
regions.
we'll be more self-sufficient. That makes
Africa
sense.
can
Okay,
work with Europe
so let's move on
and so
to
on and so forth.
excellent. Let's move on to Blake. Go ahead, Blake. What's your answer?
Sorry, I need to unmute myself. And please, thank you for calling. Please cut me off if I'm not on topic. I like to be on topic. I want to move
All right,
on.
let's go.
My father was 30 years military. My brother was 20 years military. I was 9 years in the reserves. And I simply want to bring the troops home. We don't need to be in Germany. We don't need to be in Japan. Maybe somebody can make a case for South Korea, but I don't believe that either. We don't need to be on these tinderbox states. We need to bring the troops home. Let them spend their money here, help improve our economy. That's it. Any other
Okay.
questions?
No, I guess that's that's a fine answer. All right, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah. So the details in the legislative package you can find on the website. So when it comes to foreign policy, there's two halves. The first is reducing the military-industrial complex. We're going to cut the defense budget by 10% a year for 4 years. We're going to cut our nuclear stockpile in half. We're going to repeal the authorizations for military force that have been the blank check for these endless wars in the Middle East for the last 2 decades. We're going to close some of our foreign military bases, and we're going to press for peace on the Korean Peninsula. Blake, I don't think we can make a case that we still need tens of thousands of troops there.
Okay,
we can resolve that. The second half of the foreign policy is improving our moral standing on the global stage. So the United States would adopt a no first strike when it comes to nuclear weapons. We would commit to not launching them first. We would end the use of economic sanctions against civilian populations, end the use of landmines, and prohibit the development of lethal autonomous weapons. We've got China that's starting to build more nuclear weapons because there's this arms race.
Yeah, that's a good answer right there. I appreciate that. Yeah. Excellent
Right.
answer. By the way, Dennis, I will come back to you at the end after everybody else goes. I'm sorry, I know that certain things were explained, and but you did a good one for the first one to answer the question. You will definitely have the last after everybody goes. You will have a chance to clarify your answer again. Okay, sorry about that. But now we're going to move on to actually Davi. What's your response to this question about how you're going to handle America's affairs with the rest of the world? Its role.
So the self-esteem of our nation is low. We've become pessimistic, as you already heard earlier in this conversation. We're not nice to each other. We're angry. Police and military recruitment is low because people generally don't believe in the structure of our government. Our nation is becoming uninspired because we don't have a foundation of a government we can trust. The Davi campaign creates a direct relationship with the American government so that the relationships we have as Americans with the rest of the world reflects our stance. We need to get our internal policy together before we have a foreign policy. I have no interest in continuing the duopoly's nasty plots in foreign affairs. This campaign reflects the average American's opinion that has never supported war in all cases, in all foreign wars, current and past. We need to not pay billions for the most elite, technologically savvy military in the world, yet still not have land or air.
Besides the military, what about the economic standpoint, right? The economic dominance that we throw on the rest of the world. I appreciate your stance on the war, right? I really do.
Right.
But what about your right? America also pushes itself economically. But it's losing dominance there. What's your plan for that?
So also pointed out earlier in this conversation, people are, complaining about, us giving our money to other nations. I think we have to now step into, well, who is America? What is actually our new product that we only, as a nation of the free, can develop? That only comes by providing the American economic structure with a network business economy that is able to compete with all the monopolies that America has allowed to exist. We have to actually step into a space and say to each other, what can Americans focus on that we can actually build upon to create the next statement of innovation that only America can offer? We're stagnating our process right now by not allowing ourselves to innovate and hear each other.
So just to make sure that I understand right there, and by the way, I think I do like that answer. Are you talking about
Thank
like
you.
building local networks so that you're actually like buying locally versus buying from like some kind of corporate monopoly?
Exactly.
I
So
love that.
Earth Order
Yeah.
America allows those businesses to actually work together, not have to worry about employing the salaries of their employees, and instead focus on how are we serving
I'm
our
I'm all for
our
that. I
communities.
actually always recommend it myself. I always say, trust the ones that be with you, not the ones that they give you. So I really
Exactly.
love that answer, man. I really
Thank you.
pretty cool, man. All right, so let's move on to. Don't worry, we'll get to go on again, Dennis, at the end. Blake, I'll call on you as well, but we're gonna move on to Paul Fiorino.
All right. Well, thanks again, for having this forum. But I lived in Israel as a veteran of World War II veterans. My dear mom and dad, who passed in 2021, they fought for our freedoms, and we we know that uh, we're in a place where the world is looking for, a third world war in regards to what's going on in Gaza right now, in Israel and the West Bank. Now, the West Bank, oh Lord, the Bethlehem is schooling their children. Speak of education, they're giving them the education of the jihad, which essentially is teaching them how to be terrorists. So we're in a place where, the birthplace of Christ, or my Savior in that way. But I got to be there in Bethlehem, which was very unique.
So are you saying we got to
But
take
now
control? Are you saying we got to
the
take
hero
control of
of
the
this,
educational system?
yes, they took hold of the education system.
So we
Now,
got to take back the educational
you
system?
look that up. This might be one of those things that freaks you out and
I mean,
says,
we're
"Oh,
just really getting to the
maybe
answers
that's
here.
something." But let's find out what's happening in our before Christmas, for crying out loud. Christmas is
Okay.
coming up.
How would you take over the? How would you retake back the educational system?
You know, Politicians should be about policy, should they not be? And so basic policies in starting in towns, like
Okay.
what is going on. But it has to be exposed, when we shine a light on it.
Okay.
And that's what the great thing of the press and the journalism and everything else that's under attack, the endowments for the arts, for
Okay.
expression.
Just to
Arts
clarify
are
the question just a
essential.
little bit, right? Yeah, I do appreciate. I'm sorry about what's going on in the West Bank, but really the question is, as in terms of a larger scale, right? Like versus globally, America's losing its dominance militarily and economically. What is your real, vision for how to, either we have to bounce back as America and regain the dominance, or we have to set up a new system where we're kind of like working as less dominant. What's your idea to handle that militarily
Again,
and
I
economically?
think strength is in our weaponry, frankly.
Okay,
I
it's
believe
realistic.
that, gun ownership in America keeps us, on edge because we don't have background checks and of the sorts. But the opportunity I believe that we have globally really is to support NATO first and foremost,
Okay,
because that's been a long time agreement going back from before, when I was born. So the opportunity we have is to make sure that whoever gets in office, and my contender, uh, she does not want to see NATO exist or certain other things like the Department of Education, or for that matter, the arts.
Are you talking about Kamala
Now,
Harris?
no, I'm talking about Lauren Boebert.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, CD4 in Colorado, Lauren Boebert, who is been already endorsed by former President Trump. So
Oh,
we
interesting.
have
Okay.
an opportunity to, again, bring some independence to the Congress through this
I understand.
voting unity.
Okay. Hey, I appreciate that. That's a good answer right there. So let's go. Let's bounce back to. I'll go back to Blake and let Dennis go last. Blake, you had one more thing you want to add, and then we're gonna go back to Josh for another question. So go ahead, Blake.
So there's a lot of comments I can make over what's been said already, but I'm just going to say one thing about approval voting. Right now, we're locked in. This is something that Davey brought to mind. One thing that we're locked into right now is voting for one of two old white guys, usually. That this year, and in the past, we've been able to vote for either a black man or a woman of mixed color, which I think is fantastic. But with approval voting, you can always vote for the candidate that looks like you. You can vote for the leader, the person who's ahead in the polls, if you want to. But you can always vote for the person who looks like you. And every candidate gets their true level of support. Thanks for the time.
All right, that's pretty wild. Dennis, I know it's the toughest to go first, so you get to bring it home right here. It's a good position as well. So go ahead, Dennis, bring us home right here.
Right, I wanted to comment on Blake's comment quickly before we go on here. With the NATO, the military, bringing the boys home and everything like that, I don't think that's a good idea right now. I think we have to have coalitions. NATO is important here. I think also in Japan, the Philippines, Vietnam, believe it or not, the South China Sea, China's aggression toward that part of the world. As you may or may not know, they are the military of China is making a naval base in Cambodia to have their submarine pits there, or pens, to defend the Moroccan Straits, which has a great amount of trade that goes through there, including fuel oil and oil for their factories.
I appreciate that, right? That's all the specifics and stuff, but really we're looking for the larger idea of, America's on a pathway of losing its dominance militarily and economically. And, I know those specific situations, right? But that list can go on forever. Did you have a particular larger concept that you're really trying to fill here?
Yes, I mean, we have to have a strong military. Theodore Roosevelt
That's fine.
believed that as
That's
well.
a good answer. Okay.
And then, so as a consequence,
I think that's realistic. By the way, as a victim of war, I think that often our voices are not heard. I'm not happy about Jill Stein at all. She's actually pushing war victims out the way, and it's disgusting and wrong. And that's why I'm the activist that I am. Because as a war victim, right? Yeah. Why are there no Korean American victims of war who are activists? Why are there no Vietnamese Americans, no Russian, Ukrainian activists right now who are fighting the war? Because other people. Let's have a reparations event. Let's have a criminal justice reform event and exclude black people. Are you crazy? That's what's happening to war victims right now. It's disgusting and wrong. Anyways, thanks for your answer, guys. I'm sorry. I know there were some other people who wanted to talk, but we're going to move this on. I have other questions to ask tonight, right? They're pretty interesting questions. But we're going to actually move it on to Josh. What's your next question? Go ahead.
All right, I'll start with Brian. Thanks, Dennis, by the way. So another hot topic in this election cycle, and it's been for a long time, is the immigration, and we have a sort of crisis going on at the southern border. Brian, what you talked about is creating a coalition of voters to go a certain direction. Considering how's this plan gonna help? What's going on immigration-wise? All the drugs coming in, for example, all the people seeking asylum. What's your plan on telling people how they should vote when it comes to improve what's happening right now.
Yeah, so our immigration and asylum system really needs a major overhaul, and this year's legislative package doesn't do that, but does address a number of smaller issues. So on the border, there's I think $19.2 billion for more border security and immigration courts. A lot of that legislative language was lifted from the deal that was worked out back in February. We include the DACA, the DREAM Act, so that children who came here were brought here illegally as children would have a path to citizenship. In addition, there would be a path to citizenship for anyone who's been in the country for more than 10 years, essentially setting a statute of limitations. And people who've been here more than a decade, which is about 80% of the 12 million or so undocumented people here, are here as long-term residents who've kept out of trouble. And those are the kind of people that we should want to stay here. And one of the other issues that comes up around immigration is around jobs. And so an electronic employment verification system would be established, and there'd be a phased-in requirement for large employers with 100 employees would be mandated to use an electronic employment verification system to ensure that their people that they hire are eligible to work in the United States. So those are some of the things that we can address in the immigration sphere this time around. But by establishing the American Union as a bargaining unit for the American people, we can come back in 2 more years with another set of legislative demands. So if Congress doesn't act, we the people can work together to make changes.
I see. Same question to you, Dalby. Considering all of the crisis happening at the southern border, when you become president of the United States, what is going to be your action you could do to fix what's going down there? Like, what would be your plan?
So immigration is a complex issue with many aspects to consider in reaction to the current problems and the border overwhelm. Most importantly, people are coming from countries that the United States of America's previous governments have had a direct hand in systematically disenfranchising through military and greedy corporate drug, oil, land, and animal operations. Proactively, however, I believe it is important to use this opportunity to not only support recent immigrants' transition and matriculation into the American workforce, but if indeed they do want to return to their home countries, Earth Order can be used to directly support their employment in their home country by supporting organic farming and reforestation projects that agree to hire those returning throughout the Caribbean, South, and Central America. Most importantly, the American people, we kind of just say, oh, there's so much going on at the border. We have too many people coming in. Well, what is the too much? Have we agreed to how many people we want entering our nation, and then use that standard to determine whether we have a problem or not? So the first thing we're going to be doing is voting for what our immigration standards are, so that we aren't just randomly saying, oh, there's a problem today.
I see. Thank you, Davy. And go to Susan next. Considering the crisis at the southern border with Mexico, all the issues people have immigrating to the United States, or maybe you wouldn't see it as an issue at all. Maybe perhaps you would go in the other direction and have less people come in. I'm not saying, and I'm just asking as a question so that you can define what your policy would be. Say when you become president, what would be your plan?
Well, first off, I'm very pro-immigrant because that's what our country was built on. And the thing is, what I discovered, and I did a special town hall today exactly on this topic, where I put a lot of details in. So if you want more information about my opinion on this topic, go to my website or to my Facebook or YouTube page, and you can find out my details. But I've been researching this since I started in February, going around the country, trying to find out what the real issues are with the immigration situation, the asylum seekers, the migrants, whatever you want to call them. And then today, when I was doing my research, I discovered that our country only allows 1 million people every year, just 1 million people every year to get a green card to come into this country. That's too less. That's too less. We have a lot of space. We have a lot of empty buildings, a lot of empty corporate buildings, homes, just empty. We've got a lot of empty space. We can fill our country with a lot more people. So our country is almost the same size as China itself. China has over 1 billion people living in the same space. We've only got 350 million, not even that. And so, we can do a lot more. We can still have our rural areas too, even with another, you know, 500 million people. We got lots of room. So let's open the doors. But the point is, we want to bring people in legally. We don't want them coming in illegally. But I agree with Brian. I think it was who said that our immigration system is broken, and it is. We have, two different ways of people coming into the country, either through airports or through, on foot or through borders on the ground, and we treat the two different areas entirely differently. So we need an overhaul of our complete system. I've seen different ways of doing this. We need to maybe charge people when they come in, especially on foot. But the real point is we need to actually ask the right questions at the borders on the ground. We need to say, where is your passport? And if they don't have a passport, they get turned around and sent back. They don't get to go further. You do not come into the United States from Mexico or Canada without a passport. Period. End of
I,
story. I don't know
I
why this
see.
is a big deal, but the problem is the president doesn't really do anything with the border. It's actually Congress. Congress is holding it up. Apparently, Biden even had people working on the issue, and the Congress has documents that they should be voting on, and they're not doing it because of an election year, and they don't want to solve it because it's
Uh,
politics. And this is the
yep.
biggest problem of all. We need to get the duopoly out, and we need real honest people in office, in working for you and me and all of us. It's enough already.
I imagine a lot of the viewing audience agrees. Thank you, Susan. And let's shoot this question to Paul. Considering the border crisis at the border between the United States and Mexico, say um, you defeat Lauren, or I forget the lady's name, but you defeat her, you go to Congress. Would you be arguing to them, and how do you work with them? Say if you even you get on the right committees and whatnot. What would you want to change about the way we do immigration in the United States?
Well, again, I believe we do need workforce. We really do. And as the baby boomers, which I'm one, a proud baby boomer, uh, the young people don't want to necessarily do the jobs, and we're going to need them for the new technology in the way we're teaching STEM in the schools now, and trying to get this situation under control with that alone. It's just the bully. We got to deal with the bully in this world. And, I mean, now Philippines is coming to us, today, right? I mean, and they're being bullied now, along with Taiwan and the North Sea up there too. We, with the Arctic melt, what what will they accomplish in that regard? So the climate change is definitely being probably the most important if we don't go back. We lost 4 years of great development in the environment, but I believe there's a lot of technology waiting, a lot of inventors, a lot of entrepreneurs that really want to see us move forward. And that's why, unity is not right or left, we are forward. But I got to go. and I really appreciate you doing this tonight. And, the opportunity for people to speak uh, on a platform, no matter how big or small. You never know who's listening, and the word of mouth that will, go from this place forward. But, I'm a man of God. I believe that we do have a chance to move forward, but I believe in the separation of church and state, and they need to operate autonomously, and that has been blurred also with this.
Well, I don't know if Paul froze for anyone else. I was gonna say, DJL7 will make sure to give out your QR codes that you showed us earlier, and thank you, Paul, for talking to us and the viewing audience. And let's move over to Dennis. So, Dennis, say you become president of the United States. There's this crisis happening at the southern border with Mexico. What would be your plan to, improve the conditions down there, improve the immigration system?
Well, let me say this. Okay, let me say this. Several things need to happen in my world. We need to have a conference of the Latin nations. I've created a party called the Latin Party of Nations, the LPN, sponsored by the Latin National Committee, under the guise of the Ball Doctrine, creating peace and prosperity in every nation. This is building a middle class in those nations. Why? We need to stop people using the United States as a dumping ground for criminals, and every Tom, Dick, and Harry wants to come here and get a free ride through illegal immigration. There needs to be consequences and accountability for that. I think it is a good idea to put a wall up and have the Border Patrol be able to enforce the law. The situation as president, I will do that. And I can do that. And then in terms of the bigger picture, it is a matter of getting these nations, including El Salvador, who does a nice job with their prisoners, on track to create economic security for their people. And I've heard a lot about a minimum wage income, or an income for minimum wage workers. What I would like to see instead of something like that, which I think would bankrupt the nation, is to create living wage jobs.
Can I just interrupt you just for a second, Dennis? The thing is that
Yep.
before, right, you were very nicely framed within the picture, right? I could see your face and everything, but now I literally like see your mouth like right next to the thing. It looks like
Okay.
someone's like mouth is like, and chin is right there, and that's all I see. You look great in the picture now. Yeah, you don't need to like put your face right in front because
Okay, well,
yeah, your
what-
mouth
what
is in
thinking-
the camera. That's it. It looks a little
like
funny.
said,
I
I'm
admit, yeah.
enough that I was thinking. I'm always thinking
It's
about
fine.
how to improve the quality of life of our people. I mean, there's been so much abuse. I'm 73 years old now. This is not acceptable. What's going on in our country? This has all been under the carpet. Nobody's known what's really been going on until the last probably 5 years, and it's only getting worse. So, just as Woodrow Wilson was president, he was a scholar. I am a scholar, and I am proceeding to show people answers. So that's a positive, and we need it right now for the boomers and their families and the future generations. If we don't do this, we will lose America as we've known it. The founders never intended, nor did they subscribe, that our nation would become like it is today. Benjamin Franklin said, "We're giving you a republic, see if you can keep it." That's the issue right now, to keep our nation the way it was created, for the people, and the people for the nation. And so, in terms of what we're talking about right now, what would I do for the border? I think I've described that, and that's my answer.
Thank you, Dennis. And last but not least, let's ask Blake. Well, you're not even asking people to vote for you, but say you had the power to do something to change what's going on at the border between the United States and Mexico. Say we decide to make you president right now. or maybe not even that what you advocate for. What do you want, or do you even want change? Do you think it's fine as is? How do you want to change how immigration is done in the country?
Great question, Josh, and I have no illusions that I'll be elected president. In fact, one of my fears is the Electoral College is so disgusted with the candidates we have running. I think that's less of a possibility now, but Dennis, please mute. So I have this fear that the Electoral College will be so upset with the people running, probably less so because Kamala has joined the race. And I'm not for her. I don't agree with her on policy, but I'm glad she's in the race. Okay, I want to make sure that's clear. I have this nightmare that the Electoral College will say I don't like either one of these guys. I'm going to vote for this guy Blake because I really like him, and approval voting is something that needs to happen. So thanks for that question. I'm going to answer your question about immigration as well. I am a very simple person. In fact, I'm a second generation American. My grandfather emigrated here in the 1920s. I'm sorry, in the early 1900s. He um, he became a citizen, I think, in the 1920s. But that's immaterial. I believe we should have open borders. None of the 9/11 terrorists came here illegally. They all came here legally. So immigration is simply to keep out non-white people. We need to get over it. The demographics are changing. People are getting non-white. In Denver, where I live, we're approaching more than 50% non-white population. If you're a white person and a white supremacist, get over yourself. Thank you. Have I answered your question?
You did, and uh, see, we
Well, let
spent
me go
about
back because you
15.
answered the question about what would I do if I have the dubious honor of becoming president and leader of the free world and the ability to make change in immigration laws. I would do away with immigration laws. I would let anybody come in that wants to come in. If they have papers to come in, let them come in. The only people that'll cross the border illegally will be the ones that we want to catch. Right now, if I want to become a border control agent, I can get a $30,000 sign-on bonus. Whoa, I'm really thinking about that. But I'm a year older than you, Dennis. I'm 74. So I'm not sure I want to do any more work. I'm done with that. I'm retired now. But anyway, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Blake. And Brian did have his hand up earlier, and I'll go to him first for a response if you'd like, Brian.
Yeah, I guess I hope I misunderstood Dennis. I thought I heard him praise El Salvador's prison system. You know, the United States used to be have the highest incarceration per capita in the world, and El Salvador has knocked us down. They're now number one. So I hope I misunderstood him. And then just to swing back really quickly to the UBI and the immigration question, UBI is only for citizens. So people who come here, immigrants, legally, illegally, whatever, are all paying the consumption tax. But the UBI is only going back to citizens. So this is a way, sort of an internship, unpaid apprenticeship before somebody goes through the citizen process, where they're contributing to the general welfare of the people of the United States.
I see. Susan, you had your hand up after Brian. Did you have a response about the immigration
Well,
question?
actually, Josh, I have a question for you because you're in Alaska. So, what kind of immigration issues are going on there? Do you have people coming over from, like Russia, from across the straits
From
there, or
there's lots of people coming in from the Ukraine now.
okay? And also from Canada, is your border pretty open there?
Uh, I mean, there's no walls or anything, and there's plenty of Canadians. Like, I don't want to speak too much about what I go through. The debate's not about me, but yeah, there's corporations that own the stores here that are Canadian. There's a lot of the mining companies are Canadian, so there's plenty of like workers.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
That's
And
it.
I think Blake had his hand up before Dennis, so let's go back to Blake real quick.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. So I didn't answer one part of your question, and that was the crisis on the border. There's no crisis on the border. People are trying to create a crisis on the border to divide us. Approval voting would allow people to vote for all the candidates they like. That will bring us together. I don't want to divide anybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Blake, and we'll go. Dennis, you have your hand up. Did you want to respond to anything said?
Well, just wanted to respond to Brian a little bit. When I'm talking about El Salvador's prisons, people like in Venezuela, Menudo, he has emptied their prisons and put them on a trail here to the United States. It's very well documented. And I believe that's also happened in other nations, including Cuba. The situation is this: we're having people murdered in America from these people. What are we going to do with this? I think it's very important that we send a strong message to all of these people crossing the border, whether you want to call them legal or illegal. I think they're illegal. But the realities are they're committing crimes in this country from coming into this country. What are we going to do about it? Now, El Salvador has done a good job with their own nation in terms of dealing with the crisis that they have encountered. There are other Latin American nations that have that problem as well down there. The narco, drug cartels, they commit murders too. So I think the President of the United States needs to be a very strong individual who recognizes you're not going to please everybody, but you've got to please the people who support your attitude toward them. And many of them are interested in justice, also justice for this government, for what they have done to us, we the people. And I've written about it. And so if anybody's interested to find out what I've written, please go to Amazon.com and type in Dennis Andrew Ball and you'll see what's up. Thank you,
Dennis. Well, we we got a response from everyone except Davi. Though we don't need to continue talking about this question. Let's go back to DJ L7, our favorite street activist, and see if he has another question for our candidates here.
I sure do, folks. Check it out. One thing that I like to do is I like to try to touch history. And right now, you know that actually they postponed the sentencing for Donald Trump until after the election sometime in November. Now, the thing is that I'm actually right in New York City where the trial's taking place, and I will actually mail the judge, right? I don't know if he's allowed to read, but I'll email him the other presidential candidates and what they think. What do you think should happen to Trump? Do you think that he should be sentenced to prison? Do you think that this is politically motivated? Go ahead. We're gonna start with this time. I'm gonna start with Blake. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yes. So honestly, I think Trump should go to jail. But how do we get him there? So I agree with the judge to put off the sentencing after the election so that there's no presumption that he's been able to interfere with the election. But Trump's going to jail.
Okay.
He's not a vote.
I got it. Okay.
Thank you.
That's good to know. Let's move on to, let's see who's next on the list. Brian.
Again, Union of Voters is trying to negotiate to pass specific policies. It doesn't have anything to do with Donald Trump specifically, trying to get legislative changes.
Okay, this will be submitted to the judge, and this will also be in a Substack with its presidential responses to, because you are a relevant voice being other presidential candidates, right? I know you're kind of like not really completely presidential candidate. All right, now next we're going to move to Davi.
I believe in due process. I am not.
Davi, you froze on me. Guys, he froze for you guys too? Yeah, I see the rest of y'all moving. All right, we're going to come back to Davi. Oh, Davi, wait, I see something happening. Davi, can you say something again?
Oh, did you hear me before?
Oh, you cut out for a second. Yeah, can you restart your answer? I'm so sorry.
Oh, okay. I was saying I believe in due process. I'm not overseeing his trial, so I don't know the specifics that, of course, the public can't see. But I believe that he should, and just like anybody else in the criminal justice system, should have due process to their trial.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. Next will be Dennis. Dennis, you may be muted. Dennis, did we disappear? Let me see. 3 others. Dennis is still here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I agree with Alan Dershowitz, the attorney who has looked at that trial. I think Stormy Daniels is the one who should have been on trial because, and I'm not a Trumper, so don't put me in that camp, but the realities are that she extorted Trump through Michael Cohen. We don't know what the deal was with Cohen and Daniels, but I believe that she demanded money from Trump in order to stay quiet about their relationship. The judge in this case, I believe, is subject to reversible error. I have had a conversation with Sean Hannity about this on his program, and when it came down, what had happened on the 34 counts, I said the wrong person was on trial,
Okay.
and that was Stormy Daniels.
I'll submit that to the judge. Actually, that'll be interesting. It's interesting responses. All right, let's go with Susan. What do you have to say about this trial? Because after this election, that's going to be crazy. We're going to lock up the other candidate. I never thought that would happen in my lifetime, where one candidate would win and the other candidate would go to jail. Wow, that's crazy. What do you say, Susan?
Well, I say this is a political stunt set up by the Republican Party to keep Trump's name out there and stay always in the news, because we know bad news is always good news whenever you're trying to be, famous. So it's working, right? What are
Could
we
be,
doing?
but the
We're talking
Democrats
about
kind of
Trump.
control New York State offices and stuff. Just so you know, I
Well,
know, like over
let
where
me
you
see.
are, the Republicans control it. But
I
here in New
want
York,
to just
it's the
I want
Dems.
to mention something that's strangely coincidental. So the Republican convention was scheduled for a different time when it happened, when it was, when it was originally planned. Then it was moved to July when it was,
Okay.
and right before the convention, he was supposed to be sentenced at that time, and then that got pushed back, didn't it, to this current time? And then what happened? There was an assassination attempt, right?
Okay.
So
So,
there was an
in terms of
assassination.
sentencing, you think he should go to jail? He shouldn't go to jail. What do you think?
I think
How long?
he, from what I understand, he might go to jail. But I find it suspicious that they've now moved it again, and now we have a second attempt on his
So you
life.
feel the whole thing is
So I think,
suspicious?
yeah, because also
That's a
they
good
just
answer.
released this Ronald Reagan movie, so
All
it's
right.
all a political stunt. It's disgusting, and I think it's politically motivated.
Well,
I'm
thank you for your
sorry.
answers. Yeah. All right. So we're gonna go back to Josh over there. Go ahead, Josh.
Seems like we're in a lightning round. So I'll just to talk about me for a second. Once I was elected to city council, it was very strange going from someone who would talk about politics to doing policy and learning about what is the responsibility of government. So perhaps in a few minutes, let's get your thoughts on our candidate's political philosophy. What is the role of government in if you win if the election goes your way, you get into office. How do you like to change things if you like to at all? Let's start with Dobby. I don't think we started with him all day.
So, because of our experience on the campaign trail, Josh, great to see you in Alaska again. We have been blocked from a number of ballots in a number of states where there are the most delegates fighting for equal treatment as a presidential candidate. We've learned the details of how the election system is failing the American people, and thereby, like I mentioned before, causing a low distrust between the American people and our government. Because of this, I was inspired earlier this year, to write the Declaration of American Human Governance. This is the founding document of Human First America, which states that the American government must respect Americans as humans first, before any other rules, corporations, or so-called artificial intelligence. To declare American human governance over our American government, taking action to ensure the accurate reflection of the people's will in American government. If all men are created equal, shouldn't we all have the same ballot to choose our nation's leader? But it's not like that, is it? Instead, we have different parties in different states and different reasons to allow someone to register to vote or for their vote to count. Even the former president who previously won an election is still complaining about our election system. If you are an American and you have a social security number and are a naturalized citizen, you should be able to vote. And that vote should speak directly into government and not a suggestion to some electoral college nobody knows. Maybe we didn't notice it before, but each state's voter registration is infringing upon the equal rights promised to all Americans in the Constitution, as Susan brought up before. We, American Human First, believe it is a time to improve the voting system. Nothing in opposition to the current one, just another way for each American to state their opinion on what you deserve as American, in equality and having a fair vote. And just like Blake mentioned before, this actually does not require you to be loyal to any particular party. You can vote to as many presidential candidates as you would like. So chapter 1 was trying to understand what the political party was doing in our nation today, in our campaign. And chapter 2 of our campaign starts here and now with you. Bit.ly.com/DAHG. Will you allow us to come together and achieve the equality and democracy we deserve as Americans?
Thank you, Davi. And I saw Dennis had his hand up for a second there, so we'll just go to Dennis next. If you're elected president, Dennis, considering your own political philosophy, what would you want to change about how things are run in this country if you are elected?
Well, there's a lack of accountability, first of all. But before I answer that question, I wanted to ask Ed, if we're going to have people call in and ask us questions tonight. I noticed that on the bulletin board when you had posted that.
Yeah, just so you... Oh, can you hear me? Yeah. Just so you know, Josh is actually watching the chat, so if people have questions they want to throw up, they can throw that up there, but I haven't seen any questions come in yet. It is what it is, yeah.
All right, I just wanted to clear that. Okay. Now, in terms of accountability in the nation, I believe we're in a crisis situation that needs to be addressed honestly. And that means people in our country, outside of our country, need to know that we know what the problems are and we know how to fix them. The President of the United States should be a fixer, somebody who comes up with new ideas. Gary Hart said that in his campaign for president, outside of the monkey business he got engaged in, from Colorado, Blake. But the situation being that in terms of dealing with problems, I have proposed an economic summit at the White House, bring all the parties together, put everything in writing. If they don't have the proposals, I do, and I have them in writing. I always work this way. And I make these proposals. And if they don't go along with the proposals, well, we'll see how that rolls. But the realities are, in terms of the economics, in terms of law enforcement, working and fighting for the family, for their best interests, and for living and working for them, I believe they need to know we have their back. We're on their side. We're on their team.
Thank you, Dennis.
That is huge. Nobody talks this way. The realities are, as long as they suffer economically, in their family, legally, criminally, dealing with all of the things they should not be dealing with, we need to make that an issue and make that priority. And I will as president. I'm a man of God. I am not a perfect man. But the realities are, I believe we have a duty to our children and generations to come to at least address the real issues that affect us. That's why I'm here. tonight. And I know you're here tonight too, because the other two parties are not addressing what's going down. They're just bad mouthing each other, and that doesn't work. And so I'm going to congratulate everybody who has a sincere interest in seeing that our society evolve emotionally, intellectually, and become strong in terms of its present, its past, and its future. And I believe that we can only do that by being transparent, and we got to know what to do.
I imagine a lot of the viewing audience feels that way too, considering this is DJ's channel. I'm not sure what the demographics are on who's here specifically for the debate and who's a returning viewer, but we thank you anyone who's watching. And so, with that in mind, let's ask the same question of Blake. You're not necessarily, well, you say you're not going to become president, but even in where you're at now, what is your political philosophy? How should people be going about politics? If you really got to do something to change this country, how would you do it?
I'm doing it right now. First of all, thank you, Davi, for your support for approval voting, your endorsement. I really appreciate it. And that's exactly what I'm in favor of. I want everybody to take back the ballot box. You're being forced to choose between the lesser of two evils. Don't do that. We want to elect mayors by approval voting to make sure there's no unintended consequences. We want to make sure that approval voting works, that people understand it, and then people accept it. We have mayors being elected in St. Louis and in Fargo, North Dakota by approval voting. I encourage every person viewing this to get involved in your local community, start an approval voting chapter, contact us at approvalvotingparty.com, let us know what's going on, and push approval voting. Again, you mark your ballot for all the candidates you like. Everybody else does the same. The person marked on the most ballots, one person, one ballot, the person marked on the most ballot is declared, I hate to use the word winner, but is elected. And then we win because we've taken back the ballot box. There is a mathematical principle that we need to defeat. It calls Duverger's law. French mathematician, you pronounce it Duverger, but it's spelled Duverger. Google Duverger's law, and you'll find out why we have two dominant parties when we can only vote for one candidate. It's a fixed system. Let's change it. Minor change, major benefits.
Thank you, Blake. And we'll go to Susan. What's your political philosophy? It seems like you've been at this, running for president for a while. I think at least one other time. Once you're elected, what are you looking to change about the American government, or at least in the way that's governed as president?
Well, so first off, I need the American people to do some of the changes I want to do. I don't think we need a House of Representatives anymore. And I think also in the state governments too, you don't need a lot of your legislative branch. We are not a fledgling country anymore. We have enough laws. What we need is action, and we need to hear from the people. We've been taken over by the duopoly, and they're not letting anybody else's voice in. And this is not how our country is. But we claim we have freedom, but we don't. We don't have freedom of choice because we've been trapped into the Democrats and Republicans running us, and it's not working. And everybody that I talk to is unhappy and they feel unheard. So it's time for direct democracy on voting on laws where you actually get to vote, and it's on individual ideas. We're not going to like pack a whole package together and force people to vote on that, because we need to have the voices heard on each and every individual concept. So we don't need to spend money on a House of Representatives anymore, because we're just paying for people to have an apartment and to go out to dinner and, to be away from their family. They need cars and everything else. So that's a waste of money. Let's put it back into the pockets of the people, and let's have you and me and all of us vote on the issues. We're intelligent enough. We can make those decisions. We don't need a middleman. So that's my first thing. But right now, you can get involved still in this election. We need good people with integrity running for office. It's not too late to be a write-in candidate in your state, in your local town. So run for mayor, run for legislature, so you can get in there and then introduce this concept of getting rid of the legislature. I know it's self-defeating, but we got to start somewhere in changing our country, and I can't be the only one doing it, and neither can even our small group here. Can't be enough to do it. We need everyone doing it. So get involved. This is an important election year like never before. It's about freedom. It's about your freedom, my freedom, and all of us. So get involved.
I would just
Absolutely.
like
And
to say,
to
yeah, I would
to
just
what
like to say that,
Susan, yes.
yeah, I just wanted to say to Susan's credit that we need the League of Women Voters to vet out people, to have debates where people get their ideas. We don't want people in here going to destroy our country. We want people who understand what they're voting for. You agree with that, Susan?
No, I don't think that the League of Women Voters is as nonpartisan as they like to pretend to be. So I don't, sadly, they used to hold debates, but somehow they got pushed out by this organization run by the Democrats and Republicans. And so, things have changed since the 80s and 90s. Somewhere in the 90s, it got taken over. I do feel that the Women's League could do some things, but I don't think they're as partisan as they like to pretend to be either. So I don't know, but I would love to have them host some debates. I would absolutely love
Th-
that, but I don't know if
Thankfully,
they're up for it.
we got DJ L7 right now. Holding,
Do I get a chance to answer
holding
this?
this. Yeah, and I actually wanted to say we haven't gotten to Brian yet. Last
Yeah.
but not least, considering you're not really running for president, what is your political philosophy, and what are you like? It seems like you're organizing voters to go in a certain direction. So, um, what's your philosophy, and what's your? It seems like you're hoping to make a group. What are you hoping to accomplish exactly?
Well, yeah, Josh is an excellent question, right? As a fellow elected, elected office holder, you have to answer the question: what do you want government to do? And our Constitution guides what our country does, and we forget that the Constitution is a framework for government. People talk about constitutional rights, but the Bill of Rights was a series of amendments that came after the fact. The Constitution is our framework for government, and the framers left us a list of things we should be doing at the very beginning in the preamble. It said, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, we're supposed to do 5 things: establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. And that is the framework for the American Union's legislative package. It's broken down into 5 sections, one for each of those duties. And so we establish justice by reforming our criminal justice system, ensure domestic tranquility by with a truce on the wedge issues of guns and abortion, provide for the common defense in a way that closer to the framers' intention by reducing the military-industrial complex, promote the general welfare with unconditional basic income and healthcare reform, and then secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity with some of the other reforms we've talked about, like the immigration reform, protecting the environment with pollution taxes so our children don't inherit a polluted mess of a planet. But the American Union is about flipping that question around, not asking what can government do for me, but what do we owe each other? What are our duties as Americans? And recognizing that the way to best to accomplish those duties is by working together, by forming that more perfect union that the framers wrote about. And as Blake has pointed out, we are stuck with a 2-party system. Beaver's law ensures that things will coalesce into 2 major parties. And so the real political power can be held by a union of swing voters that can pit the 2 parties against each other and demand legislative action in exchange for our support. Congress can get this done before the election. We can let them keep their jobs. If they refuse to do so, we can kick them out and replace them with the other political party. And so we're going to give them a great incentive to get things done, to solve problems for America, and upgrade our social contract.
I'd just like to follow up with what Brian said. I have filed suit in federal court in Tallahassee, Florida. I lived there for 4 months. I lived in Florida for a year. I went after them, the Republicans and the Democrats, because they're so extreme partisan there. You have to have a sponsor just to do an event in their capital, which is beautiful. But if you're not a Republican or a Democrat, they won't let you in. So we had to go across the street at the Vietnam Memorial. The situation being, I filed a 5-page complaint against all of this. I got an 11-page document back from the court from 2 judges, and I said, fine, I will come back with counsel, and I'll withdraw my complaint. That's where we are. I have to have the ACLU come in and fight for us in all 50 states. We have to break up the monopoly and do antitrust busting as if we are T.R. Roosevelt back in 1904.
Thank you, Dennis. And DJL7, our favorite street activist. Did you have one more question, or exactly how long was this supposed to go?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know it's going on real long. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
not that it's too long. I think like 2 hours seems like
it is going on. Yeah.
Something like this hobby.
I do have.
I could talk to everyone forever.
I have a bunch of questions. Yeah, I'm so sorry, but I do definitely want to ask this question right here. Today, actually, his series has been pretty historic. We've had wrongful incarceration people on. We've had, thank you very much, Josh, for being on today. One of the people that I was looking forward to being a moderator today was Salamander Brandy, who's currently homeless, living out of a pickup truck in Memphis, Tennessee, where Tyre Nichols just died. Now, the thing is that, just so you know, the ELF, right, DJ ELF 7, part of my mission is, well, really the bulk of my mission is really to take care of the hidden stories, the people that are forgotten about, people that are left behind, right, hidden stories. And one of those people are the trans people. And actually, Salamander Brandy is trans. She was actually cited by Justin Pearson, who was actually in the House of Representatives of Tennessee, where he actually, just the fact that she's trans isn't really enough for her to be, someone to celebrate, honestly. I don't really believe in that type of identity politics. But she was also cited as a activist by Justin Pearson in his inauguration speech. And I really respect her for that. I met her actually doing public housing activism. And right now, I do believe that community is under attack. I do believe that for some reason, right, trans people have been here for centuries. They've been here since prehistoric times. But all of a sudden, lately in the political discourse, right, like 5 years ago, I don't remember, or even 2020, I don't remember all this talk about trans people. All of a sudden, like, it became a big issue. We really seem to care about when they win. Oh my God, right? Yeah, but when they lose, no one cares. Now, I guess Salamander Brandy can make it today because she's homeless right now. I mean, dead serious. I'm about to join her, just honestly, like here in New York. It's crazy. But what do you have to say to the trans people? Just they are kind of like taking over the political discourse right now. Let's start off with Brett. Blake, you're on my screen. Go ahead.
Thank you. So you may not be able to see it, but the T-shirt I have on right now is from Quartzsite, Arizona, where the Homes on Wheels Alliance meets every January. I'm a volunteer there. I believe in allowing people to live in their vehicles if they so desire. Vans, motorhomes, cars, whatever. I travel over to the U.S. I do have a condo here in Denver. I come back every year for medical checkups, that sort of thing. But for the most time, I'm on the road. I'm living out of my vehicle, and I rather enjoy it. Now, I'm fortunate enough not to have to do that, but my heart goes out to those people that's their only option. So if you haven't heard of the Homes on Wheel Allowance, HOWA, go ahead and Google Homes on Wheel Allowance. Make a $1 donation, make a $10 donation, help somebody else out. They do great things for people all the time.
I will, yeah. Cool, appreciate that. Anybody else want to answer the question about how they would what's their stance on the trans people coming up in the news now? It's becoming an issue. Someone's making it an issue, right? And you might even say, I agree with some people that say that they're trying to drive it towards, selling, gender surgery to kids, right? Yeah, trying to sell services and medications. That's not necessarily a lie either, right? That we're being sold a solution. But are there any other particular thoughts on this particular issue, which is for some reason being made an issue in the public? Go ahead, Susan.
So, I mean, we are a country that is very diverse. So, I think we still need to, open up and celebrate our diversity. So, prejudice has no place in government, certainly. And so, if these people are having trouble getting homes, maybe they have to go through a government agency to get something. Or maybe they have to sue places that they've tried to get homes in and they couldn't because of their who they are or who they represent. So, I celebrate diversity. I think religion plays a big role in some of these people having prejudice towards certain people, and so this is it's a religious issue too a little bit. But we all have a right to be here. We are a diverse country. We
I
have to
appreciate it.
start accepting each other. And as far as you know, I don't think we should change people's sexuality until they're an adult, considered an adult. So that's 18. So after 18, if they want to change and be a different sexual orientation than they were, medically change, that's okay. But I think actually everybody should wait until they've had an opportunity to have children first. And then if they want to change their sexuality, then go ahead.
Okay,
But I
thanks for
think
making
we
your
need
position
to just
clear. That's good. Okay.
yeah, we just
All right.
need to be open,
All
and
right.
diversity is the key.
Thank you, Davi. You're next.
So I want to be clear here that this is for me about humanity. While everyone is entitled to free speech and free costuming and how they identify themselves, some truths we need to be sensitive to. And that is every human being requires the opportunity to fully grow and understand what it means to be human before they are required or in many situations forced to decide what type of sexuality and or gender their body will continue to have ongoingly. So it is important that we look at our education system. In my presidential campaign, we present something called Lifecity, which is not just another education system, but it is a form of human knowledge gathering, not only about the human external experience, which is what our education system is basically focused on, but also what it means to be a human. How do you operate? What do your how does your body relate to your mind, etc. All those things are important to how people understand themselves, and then we can have a conversation about, number one, how people want to express themselves gender wise and or sexuality. Secondly, I think a lot of the trans question is because we are not really looking at the question of what it means to be human. When we accept and respect what it means to be human, we will not be in a conversation about how different humans are being discriminated against. Discrimination is discrimination, and discrimination itself is the problem, not the person.
Appreciate that. Yeah. Hey, that's a great answer. Brian, you have something to say about that?
Yeah, Davi, I really love what you had to say.
Thank you, Brian.
Very much need to recognize the humanity in all of us. And so the American Union doesn't play identity politics. Instead, by focusing on universal policies, lifting everybody up. Now, as a practical matter, that will disproportionately benefit the marginalized, the people who will get the most bang for their buck from the universal policies. But identity politics too frequently are used to divide us, and instead we can come together around our constitutional duties and look out for each other as Americans, work
Appreciate
together
that.
to solve these problems.
That's a good answer. Blake, you had a response? Blake, you have a response to that?
I wasn't sure if I was muted or not. Yes, I do have a response. So
Okay.
I really like what Susan had to say, what Davi had to say, and what Brian had to say. And my point of view, and I didn't answer your question initially. I answered a different question. I apologize.
No, it's okay.
We need to be tolerant. We need to be accepting. We need to embrace everybody as a human. I call myself a racist. Now, some people might be a little concerned about that, but I believe in the human race. We're all the same inside. I don't care if you're trans or black or German or, for God's sake, Italian. Doesn't matter. We're all humans.
I appreciate that.
Embrace
Yeah,
each other.
that's a good answer. All right, Dennis, you had something. I don't think you got to answer yet. Go ahead.
Well, yeah. I'm writing a book right now called Divided by Gender, A Plot to Take Down America. I believe that the gay agenda is just to destroy the traditional heterosexual nuclear family. A lot of them will disagree, but if you look at the hardcore New York gay community, they're into an agenda. Now, I also believe this, that they are trying to promote 54 variations of sexuality. Chromosomally, a male has so many, a female has so many. The difference between men and women is that women menstruate, men don't. And so, in terms of what Susan had to say, I support her in respect to what is an age where a person can make the right decision for their life. Because if they go into the trans world, they're not going to come out the same as they were. And so they need to have time.
Okay, I just want to, I know that we're actually going on 2 hours. I do want to actually ask questions for all my moderators before I go, right? Yeah? Sorry about that, folks. Now, the thing is that, just so you know, another one of the moderators is actually Reverend Keith Gadsden. He's wrongfully incarcerated. And the thing is that I'll send you guys information about his case later. Right? Maybe you could actually support him getting a meeting with the Conviction Review Unit, or actually the senator, because actually the Conviction Review Unit decided not to give him exoneration, even though we have evidence that shows that he should. Federal Judge Leo Glasser, who tried Gotti, said that there should be a retrial. That never happened. The one witness was 2.5 football fields away when they made the identification. They were on drugs at the time, and that person's testimony at nighttime, and this person's testimony was used to convict Reverend Keith Gadsden. So maybe you guys could support his exoneration. Another person I do want to actually, I know that you guys don't have enough information on the case, so I'll send that to you. Another person I want to shout out, Josh Haley. Thanks again for coming tonight. Josh Haley's actually a victim of, discriminatory policies being used by the Green Party in general, and I'd like to ask if the presidential candidates tonight, once again, they'll be commenting on Trump's case, and I'll be sending that right to, and also I would like to get your comments and getting a meeting between myself, because I'm a victim as well in this, as a Green Party member. I would like to have a meeting, and I would like to ask if you would have Josh be asked to be given a meeting with Jill Stein and other members of the Green Party National Committee. Would you guys support that? Go ahead. Blake's in. Dennis, would you support us getting a meeting with the Green Party President Jill Stein and the Green National Committee?
That's a good question. I don't know, to be honest with you. The thing that you continue to tell me is that they think they are the third party in this country.
They're acting in undemocratic ways, and they're right. There was no vote to decide that Josh Haley, Green Party Alaska, an elected member. There's very few elected members of the Green Party in office, and they just kicked him out because they thought it would be more convenient to run. The party leadership said, "We're going to choose this candidate to run." Who made that decision? They had a vote in Alaska, and that had nothing to do with it. They just decided to take all the money and shove it towards another party called the Aurora Party. Now they're saying they're not. They're full of crap. Would you just support us getting a meeting with them? Go ahead, Josh.
I don't know what Dennis was going to say, but I'm very frustrated with the Green Party. And, a big reason they're not going to be anything more than an alternative party is because they're absolutely ridiculous kicking out the Green Party of Alaska because of the way they handled the 2020 election, spending the money to put into the Aurora Party to put Cornel West on the ballot instead of Jill Stein, though she's getting out now. Just recently, putting Jill Stein as a proposition instead of a candidate, so now she's not even going to be on the ballot. I mean, it's a mess.
Yeah. Look, sorry, I'm going to mute you, Dennis, yeah? Look, I'm a victim of war, and, she's actually making mad money off of saying that she's actually, helping war victims. It's disgusting. She an indigenous man right here, elected thank you for helping us on this, right? So Dennis is not sure. Blake is in, really appreciate that. Davi, would you support us getting a meeting with Green Party Jill Stein and also Green Party National Committee leadership, myself and Josh Hadley?
Yeah, I mean, you don't need my affirmation, but yes, I mean,
Hell yeah.
I encourage all conversations, especially with the party that's supposed to be upholding democracy. In the presidential nomination convention last month, there was a 90-minute appeal process to stop me, a melanated indigenous person of America who's running for president, who has delegates within the presidential nomination process, from speaking. 90 minutes of a presidential nomination convention. The idea that the Green Party is upholding democracy is really in question, and if you guys are committed, as it seems you are, to making sure that the Green Party in the future will be upholding democracy, yes, you should absolutely have this conversation, and it is a bigger conversation about how all third parties or alternative parties are upholding the premise of democracy in our nation.
Really appreciate your help there, Davi. That's huge. What about Brian? Brian.
Yeah, you should have a conversation. That's how you resolve things.
I like that, Brian. Thank you. What about Susan? Susan, you're gonna.
Yes, you should have the conversation. You should talk.
By the way, just so you know, Susan is actually a prior also presidential Green Party candidate, right? Yeah. And also shout out to Manuel Pastrike. He's also in this too. But just so you know, actually, Matt Pastrike's a Harvard professor, right, from PhD, and actually he wasn't even, through the suppression, he wasn't able to get any on the ballot, but Davi actually did get delegates. So props to Davi. You know, I mean, Davi actually outperformed the Harvard PhD. That's pretty impressive right there. So no knock on Emmanuel.
In November. He dropped out in the Green Party race in November.
Hey, Emmanuel did some cool things. You know, I mean, I really appreciate. He's been very helpful to our thing. But
yeah, it's been
really,
helpful.
I have to respect what you got done. I believe in results, and you got results. So respect to you. Yeah. All right, Dennis and Blake seem like they have something else to say. I just want to be, we're pretty much going to wrap it up. But if anybody else wants to say anything they want to say, after this, we'll go for one more round with everybody else, so everybody can make a final statement. But one more thing.
Well, I just want to say I support you and your thinking about the Green Party and Jill Stein. I mean, for me, she got $7 million in the last election. She goes to the Committee on Elections to be on the stage with Trump and, Clinton. And she's outside. She's collecting money.
For herself,
now she
it's disgusting.
Attitude the Green Party is the third party, and that's the only party there is.
Thank you, Dennis. That's wonderful.
Not gonna work here.
Hell yeah! All right, Blake, you got something else? You want something else you want to add? I know. Thank you for you already supported. You said the thumbs up, but anything else you want to comment? Then we're gonna go. Everybody's gonna have one last round to speak. Go ahead, Blake.
Yeah, real quick comment, then we'll come back around again.
Yeah.
So one of my best friends is Gary Swing, who's been very active in the Green Party, and he feels like they've been ushered out very undemocratically. So anything you can do to get the Green Party to be more democratic. I'm a libertarian. I'm an approval voting advocate. I welcome the competition.
I'm also a libertarian, but the 7 is green. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'll keep the room open for a few minutes after ending the stream. Absolutely. Just so you know, now we're gonna go to a final round. Everybody can
very quick. I'm a green libertarian. I believe in everything the Greens believe in. I just don't want to force it down your throat.
I feel you. I'm a libertarian as well. I was a card carrying member of Libertarians until Angela McArdle sold out to Nick Brana. That's a whole nother episode. Don't even worry. Oh, you know about that? Oh my God, I don't even know. Yeah, Angela's a mess. Anyways, we're gonna there's talks about her stealing the logo. That's a whole nother. I'm involved with all the parties, just so you know, right? Yeah, I don't really discriminate. But so we're gonna shut it down. Thanks again for watching. By the way, I'm gonna take some of the statements tonight. These are historical statements on Trump's sentencing, historical statements on what's going on in the Green Party, historical statements on trans people, right? Once again, sorry about what you're going through. By the way, I'm not. Just because someone's trans doesn't mean it's good, right? Yeah, if you could have food, right, that's junk food. If you can have education, that's junk education. You can have, right, trans people can do good and they can do bad as well, right? So I'm not saying that they're not above review. But I am saying, right, I see y'all under attack and I'm with you, you know what I mean? That's what's happened to you is not cool. Y'all being targeted right now. I got your back. All right, folks, so That's what I have to say. Just sign up for the Substack. All that historical documentation will be put up there. It's on my newsletter at dgl7.com. All right, I'm going to go to the next person in line, who is Blake. Go ahead. Say it's your final statement.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Yes, this is my final answer. Okay. So, investigate approval voting. If you want better elections, if you want better people to run, more choices, more voices, if you want to campaign for your favorite candidate, it's much easier to get somebody else to add them to their approval list than to change exactly who they want. If you're a Kamala supporter and you want people to vote for Kamala as well as Jill Stein, it's much easier to get them to add Jill to your approval list than to say, well, don't vote for Kamala, vote for Jill. If you're like me and you're libertarian, you want to vote for Chase Oliver and you're thinking about voting for Trump, I would recommend a psychiatrist, but that's beside the point. I'm anti-Trump. I apologize if you are pro-Trump, but think about it. You're campaigning for your candidate. Get people to approve them as well as anybody else they want to approve. Much, much easier. We're going to get better candidates. We're going to get better election results. And even if your most favorite candidate doesn't prevail and get elected, all the issues that that candidate represents will affect whoever does get elected. Thank you.
Awesome. So let's move on to Brian from An American Union.
Look, America has a lot of problems, but they're fixable. We can solve these things. We don't have to change the way we vote. We don't have to amend the Constitution. We can solve these problems. And the way to do that is to help Congress, to recognize the humanity in Congress. Instead of trying to defeat them and destroy them, work together with them. So by writing down the solutions, end poverty, end mass incarceration, end the endless wars, by giving them a choice, we can help them get this done before the election in order to keep their jobs. We can create the positive, creative tension that will upgrade our social contract, that will bring people together around solutions instead of needlessly dividing us. Learn more about this on anamericanunion.com. And yeah, together we rise.
You still meeting up every Thursday or whatever that is?
Not so much. We have 24 days of live streams starting this Saturday. We're going to break down every section of the legislative package so people can understand exactly what it is. Well, we're going to change the United States Code to solve these problems and ask people to pool their votes. Pledge to that on October 15th.
All right, cool, man. Great job, Brian. All right, let's move on to Davi.
If you're watching this, you are the one of the few who are still looking for another way, who still has hope that if you watch this video, you may hear something different, something better, good intuition. And here we are with your results. I challenge you to take the next step, and you and your organization set up or sponsor an event with us. Put yourself and your community in a position to really have your beliefs opened and inspired. The Human First America vote is more constitutional than the general election because it ensures that states are not infringing upon the equal rights of every American, as detailed in the Constitution, by providing a national ballot for all Americans that is in no way impacted by states, as it should be. BuyIV.com/DAHG. All of these Americans come into life to ultimately contribute a certain amount of productivity for the greater humanity. People like Nikola Tesla, George Washington Carver, Malcolm X, Octavia Butler, incredible minds who, because of the visions they made physical, humanity has a greater contribution, a new system, a new way of thinking that makes living greater in some way, a new way. Wouldn't it be better if humanity did not have to struggle for money, but instead we were living with ease so that ultimately we can each be better contributions to our greater society? If we make sure we're all at ease with our maintenance, housing exchange, equal salaries, healthcare costs covered, then humanity will contribute to humanity better. A lot of people are talking about unity, but for some reason we aren't unified. Why? Because we haven't got a good reason to unify. And I ask you today, can humanity be a good enough reason for us to get unified? can we unify to make sure humanity has a voice in American government before it's too late, before we've completely gone off course? It is bright and exciting and a new future. Buy.v.com. Sign the Declaration of American Human Governance. Donate. Volunteer with our team. Write in Davi in the general election. We've got 1.5 months to get this right for ourselves and generations to come. Our goal with the Human First America vote is 200 million votes. We will succeed or we will not. But if we will succeed, this can be the beginning that you choose to make a movement of a few clicks. Let us evolve into a super and superb America.
Awesome. All right, so let's move on to Dennis. Go ahead.
Well, David, you say it so well, how you have articulated to all of us how you would proceed to at least introduce, like a vaccine, an antidote for so many problems that the human race has created for itself out of greed, lust, avarice, and as a consequence, our families, our children, the generations to come are handicapped because there is no real structure there for them to follow. I believe in a new path. I do. That's why I wrote the Ball Doctrine. I also believe that we are in a position where the American Party of America, the American National Committee, through the Ball Doctrine and other parties that I have created all around the world, like you have indicated in your own Declaration of Human Rights, that we get this right now. We are in a crisis. We need a new path. I have gone to the United Nations to introduce the Ball Doctrine to them. I may have an opportunity to see President Biden when I go to D.C. I'm on a whistle stop right now to D.C. The media is following, but I will consider what you're saying has value and merit. And I think we need to consider that the future generations need to be able to make distinctions and distinguish between fact and fiction and be able to make their voices heard. And if we can do that, and we have something there for them and their children, instead of children swimming for sponges in the Philippines or making bricks in Pakistan, they're in school learning and their parents can support them. And there is equity in the family and in the culture. Our attitude is, if you're not fighting for your family, who are you living and working for? The problem is that the Bible says the love of money is the root of evil. So money becomes a problem. As you have so rightly said, fighting for money is a problem because of how the system has been stacked against we, the people. I'm a follower of Martin Luther King. I believe in nonviolence, and I believe in communication. Communication has everything to do with progress. It has everything to do with knowledge.
All right.
The Bible says, my people are destroyed for lack of it.
Appreciate
However,
that. Yeah.
praise God, we have a chance to make history. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm actually going to have Susan, the last presidential candidate, to go. Then I'm going to have Josh bring it home. So go ahead, Susan.
So I guess what I want to say is that it's up to you, USA. It's up to the people. You need to vote, and you need to know that write-in candidates exist. So, DJL7, I'm glad that you are organizing these to get our voices out. We are voices, we have opinions, and we are different from the duopoly and the other parties out there. So if we want to bring change, the change begins with the election process. So write people's names in and run for office. We need good people running for office on all levels because currently everybody in office is illegally there. If we know for a fact that in Texas, in the last elections, they had over 1 million names wrong on their registering to vote list. There's no checks and balance on that list. In West Virginia, we also had 380,000 names incorrect. We also know in Georgia there were incorrect names, and in Ohio there were 600 at least incorrect names. This is just the start of a huge problem that we're just now discovering. So stop. I recommend everybody become unregistered, because if you're not registered, they can't fake your name. So do that first. You can always vote as a citizen up until the last day on November 5th. They cannot prevent citizens from voting. So become unregistered. Then, when it comes time to vote, go and vote. Bring your ID or whatever you need to prove your citizenship and your address, and you have to vote. They have to let you. You are a citizen. It's against the law for them to prevent you from voting. So do that. Write people's names in. Don't just vote for the standard quo, because you're going to get the standard of what we've already had the last 40 years, which is nothing. They're going to tax you and they're going to cheat you out of everything. So, if you want to find out more about me, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, or X is now the name. I'm on YouTube. I've got over 400 videos. I ran for president in 2020. I'm running again. In between, I ran for Congress and then I stopped because of all the fraud in the system. So my website is susan4usa.com. And, you know, right here we have a lot of good people. So I'm just one voice. If you like somebody else, then vote for them, but vote your conscience.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, before we go to Josh, just going to close up by saying by combining presidential candidates together, right, it actually makes you stronger, and it gives you a larger and ability to affect things, such as Trump sentencing, things like that, right? Just being U.S. presidential candidates and commenting on another U.S. presidential candidate as a peer and being recognized that is historically significant. So thank you for participating. I look forward to accomplishing more with y'all. As a unit, I think we're stronger, and I'm hoping to help you grow to be the national figures that you deserve, right? Just because the press isn't covering you doesn't mean that you shouldn't be on the stage up with them, right? What are they talking about? Cats and dogs and fracking? Oh my God, right? You guys deserve to be up there too. So I'm gonna let Josh bring us home. Thanks again. Go ahead, Josh. Make your final statement. Go ahead.
Yeah, we'd like to thank Paul Noel Brano, who joined us earlier, couldn't stick with us the whole way. Blake Huber, Susan B.
Huber.
Connie? Huber, sorry. And I probably said Susan's name wrong too.
Susan
Davi.
Bookser, Lahonky.
Okay. Dennis Andrew Ball, Brian Winters, and I'm Joshua J. Hadley. I'm not active on social media, but if you want to look at my website, I haven't updated in months. www.joshuajhadley.com. I'm not going to give too much help on how to find it. There it is. And I'd like to thank our host, DJ L7, for hosting his third presidential debate of 2024. DJ, anything else you'd like to plug before we end the broadcast?
Yo, just so you know, folks, if you're watching this show cannot be talked about by any other media channel, including Breaking Points, Vanguard, Status Quo, Jimmy Dore, Kim Iverson. None of them are allowed to talk about, Brianna Joy Gray. None of them are allowed to talk about any of the work that we do, including bringing the longest wrongfully incarcerated men in New York State history to Kamala Harris's campaign doorstep. You could watch all of it on my channel. It's all true. All the work, Savvy Sabs, they are not allowed to report on this work. There's other people that have been suppressed, like Dak Rouleau, who's the guy who filmed all the cancer response to Will You Free Assange? If you're watching this, you found us very special, and you guys, once again, sign up for the newsletter on djl7.com. I guarantee you will never hear about this on any other channel. It's up to you guys to decide, if you want to spread this. Americans love fake food, fake all kinds of things. This is the realness right here. Thanks for checking it out.
Thank you.
All right. All right, so I'm going to end the stream right now. Let me just do that. And I'll leave the room open so you guys can network or whatever you guys want. Yeah, I think that Brian wanted to say something to you guys.